Welcome to Sound Unlimited for all things newsy, juicy, sporty, tasty, and more.
The cross-examination of Brigadier Gininda by Advocate Mnisi focused on the decision not to indict Kelly Khumalo. Gininda was at pains to explain why Kelly was not arrested and charged together with the 5 accused, even though he himself recommended to the Director of Public Prosecution that Kelly should also be charged. I'd like you to listen to this part of the cross-examination.
You amassed and collated all the information that you've just alluded to now and prepared a memorandum that included all the information that you've just testified about now and presented it to the office of the DPP for a decision.
Bathi-ke lapho usuthole lonkana ke ulwazi noma lonke ulwazi kade unalo ke mayelana necala leli. Ngemuva ukuthola ke ulwazi lonke lo kade unalo bese uyahamba ke wena ke uvakasha kuma office wabashushisa abakhulu kwithimba lakhona ke ekuthizeni ufike umikise presentation yakho akusinjalo.
That's correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo noma yebo kuyiqiniso lokho.
Thank you. Now, the process that the office of the DPP as prosecutors will do in arriving at a particular decision, it's a very meticulous and a tedious one.
Athi-ke lapho ke uhlelo noma mhlawumbe uhambo lwethimba labashushisi ngaphambi kokuthi bafike kusinqumo sabo kumele bahlale phansi bacabange futhi bacabangisise kahle ngokujulile konke okusube banako ngaphambi kwabo akusinjalo yini.
Please, my lord, I think this is now for the third day that council has been busy with this same issue. Is there a reason, my lord, why this issue is being revisited over and over again, my lord? We submit that it should now be ruled out. I think it's been sufficiently canvassed the past 3 days.
Now, I'm not so sure which issue is the state referring to, my lord. That has been repeated for almost 3 days.
It's talking about the selection.
The
selection of, for instance, the charges to be preferred, the indictment, etc.
No, I'm not.
And he says it's a process which is done by the staff of the DPP, but the Director of Public Prosecutions is the one who decides. Like we said, we must read section 196, 76, 79 of the NPA Act. This witness doesn't select or make a decision about charging. He can, at the worst, he can recommend. But the man who makes a decision, it's the DPP. Is that what you are trying to put across?
Yes, indeed, my lord. And the whole issue of the presentation of the docket, those issues have been covered in the past 3 days.
No, that is pretty wrong, my lord. I would never agree with that kind of an approach, because it's public knowledge. It's there in the internet. It's everywhere. How does an office of the or how does a prosecutor comes into a particular decision? I'm laying a background here to this witness of the question that I will come and pose to him later on. So I cannot be barred from laying a background, because that's public knowledge.
You mean the public knows how
prosecutors take decisions?
How the DPP performs her duties or his duties?
No, how do prosecutors take a decision?
How they perform their duties. Whether they take a decision or not, they perform a duty.
Yes, that's
so
public knowledge.
The public knows about that.
It's public knowledge. It's
okay,
there in the NPA Act.
Fine.
Yes, it's there in the NPA Act,
okay.
Which is a national legislation. It's a public legislation. So there's nothing untoward from the question that I'm asking this witness.
Okay.
Thank you. So I was just saying that the process of making a decision by the office of the DPP is a very laborious, meticulous, and a tedious one.
athi lapho-ke sokuthi isinqumo mhlawumbe uhambo nomhlawumbe uhlelo ovame ukuthi thathwe ithimba labashushisi ke lapho-ke uhambo olujulile futhi noma uhlelo olujulile lapho-ke ngoba kumele baqaphe konke khona-ke ngaphakathi kwalokade upresenta futhi naphakathi kwedokhethi bese bahlale phansi bakufundisise bese bacabangisise kahle ngaphambi kokuthatha isinqumo akusenjalo yini.
I'm listening, my lord.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you, Brigadier. In other words, they serve as a strain or a filter from what they received from investigating team and what they need to go and present at court.
Athi-ke ngamanye amagama kusukuthi bahlala phansi-ke bona babuke lokhu abaletheleke umseshi wecala. Ngemuva ukuthi bakubuke lo sebahluza-ke lapho ukuthi ngabe yini ukuthi bathathe bayimikise ngaphambi kungosi enkantolo thizeni-ke ingosi enkantolo bese ithwesa abantu noma isici siyaqala-ke ihlala phansi ilalela icala.
Listening, my lord, yes.
Thank
Athi
you.
yebo ngilalele.
Thank you, Brigadier. And I've got no doubt in my mind that in this case, that is exactly what happened. Because also that information is now in the public domain, actually it came from you. What were the reason why that application was declined?
Athi-ke lolo lwazi lolo liqhamuke nawe-ke manje umbuzo kukuthi kungani isicelo sebangakaze basivume noma kungani sile banqaba-ke isicelo leso.
So the first part of the question, my lord, it is not 100% correct to say it came from me. It was initiated by the late Advocate Mngomezulu during the trial within trial. And
Athi lapho kumalana nephuzu lokuqala akusukuthi ulwazi luqhamuke naye. Kepha kulwazi laqhamuka nosele ashona noma sele angasekho-ke umnumzana Advocate Mngomezulu ngesikhathi kade abuza-ke imibuzo ngesikhathi kade khona-ke umzila ngaphakathi kumzila la enkantolo noma icala kade ehlelwe phansi la enkantolo.
and such a statement then, my lord, was read. I read it. But I was under cross-examination by the defense of accused number 1.
Athi-ke futhi ngesikhathi leso-ke khona istatement lapho-ke esafundwa-ke lapho-ke futhi kade bemphenya noma kade bembuza-ke imibuzo mayelana nodaba lwakamsola wokuqala.
And I indicated, my lord, that the reasons firstly were the issues of further investigations, which started as early as October. Subsequently, this statement that I'm talking about was in November 2014. So there were instructions that DPP felt that they should be acquired, but then subsequently the strategy of approaching the case moving forward. So it was a folded approach. It was not one. At the beginning, it was further investigations which were done, because if one looks at the time when we made a memorandum and indicating the phone numbers, and one looks, rather if you look at what was available when the memorandum was done and what was contained in the statement later for the warrant of arrest, there was more things. There were more things insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo. But during the discussion, then further investigations and certain approach were then discussed with the DPP, my lord.
My apologies, my lord. Can the witness please repeat it again?
So it was further instructions and the approach to the case, basically.
Athi lapho-ke ngesikhathi kade kusenzeka lokhu-ke khumule khona nje athi icala leli noma mhlambi-ke lapho-ke udlame noma mhlambi isehlo noma mhlambi-ke lapho-ke yebo isehlo senzeka ngo-October futhi ngesikhathi ngenyanga kaNovember kula kade khona besesha noma kade bephenya-ke khona-ke njalo-ke icala leli-ke futhi athi khona-ke iy'nqumo noma mhlambi lapho-ke uhambo noma mhlambi ukusesha kwecala noma mhlambi ukuphenya kwecala kade kusenziwa khona-ke lapho-ke futhi icala ukuthi kukhona-ke inkulumo ezenzeka lapho-ke futhi yizo ezenzeka ukuthizeni banqabe noma yebo banqabe ekuthizeni bakhiphe-ke incwadi lethizeni uKelly Khumalo aboshwe.
Brigadier, I don't want to assume that I understand your answer now. I perfectly don't understand it.
Athi akazwisisi-ke akazwisisi yini akazwisisi neze impendulo yakho ophane ngayo.
Now,
Mnumzana.
oh sorry, you're saying the reason why that application was declined is because of further investigation, further instructions, and that a case, the investigation was started with in 2014. I'm unable to follow the reason why this application, as per your explanation, was declined.
Athi Yena-ke akakhoni ukuzwisisa ukuthi ngabe kungani isicelo lesi basinqaba bangakazi basivumele ngoba ukhulume ukuthi khona-ke inkulumo lapho ekade ikhulunyiwe nokade kade uyitsheliwe lapho-ke mayelana nokuthi futhi nokuphenya kwecala noma nokusesha kwecala. Ngabe kahle kahle uthi yini uyikhulumayo mnumzane?
Please make me understand
Athi ucela ukuthi umenze azwisise
the reason why application for warrant of arrest against Kelly was declined.
athi ucela ukuthi lapho-ke umlekelele futhi umsize ngendlela eqondile ejulile ekuthizeni umtshele izizathu ekukuthi kungani isicelo sencwadi leyo kade uyicelile ekuthizeni uKelly Khumalo-ke aboshwe ukuthi bayinqabe incwadi leyo.
You know, the language is obviously incorrect. You're using declined. The other time you used authorized. The DPPP, in terms of the law anyway, decides whether a person must be charged or not. The DPP also decides whether a warrant of arrest should be issued against a person or not. And if he doesn't do that, the policemen who have come with, to put it loosely, a recommendation, don't have any power to dissuade the DPP from doing his job. That's how I understand the law. So, the DPP, I think there's conclusive evidence that Baloyi must face charges, and the DPP refuses to charge. You've got remedies in terms of the law, which you can initiate. Like, for instance, to quote a case which is known by everybody, the case of the state versus Tint. It's been going for 20 years or 10 years, where a particular well-known individual was not charged in the initial matter. Some other person was charged, and that other person, allegedly, who were in cahoots with a person who is not charged, was sentenced to jail for I don't know how many years. And then the other person, subsequently, when there was a change of a DPP, the new DPP then charged the second person. That's how I understand the law. Am I correct in interpreting? I mean, you're a senior advocate.
Yes, in the sense that it's NDPP, not DPP.
Yeah, sorry, yeah,
There was a new
NDPP. Yeah, sorry.
yes. Yeah.
National Director of Public Prosecutions, in other words. DPP is his junior, like Dutoit and Baloyi and the doctor here.
Manje ngisenkantolo lapho-ke kade ibukisa futhi noma kade mhlawumbe idulika lokhona-ke lapho mayelana nezomthetho-ke abasebenza ngakho lapho kumahhovisi wabashushisi abakhulu lana eNingizimu Afrika-ke athi lapho-ke iphoyisa ngeke libe sesimeni esiqondile noma esimeni esikahle ethizeni siphenduleke mayelana nalo mbuzo kade ummelweni ubuze ukuthi kungani incwadi lena ethizeni uKelly Khumalo aboshwe-ke noma isicelo sakhe sokuthi mayelana nencwadi kade eyicelile ethizeni uKelly Khumalo aboshwe ukuthi kungani kade sele bayinqaba lapho-ke ukuthi bangayivumeli incwadi leyo-ke bese inkosi enkantolo athi khona-ke lapho-ke iphoyisa ngekhe likhona ukuthi liphendule kahle-ke lapho umnumzana ubaba uGininda ngeke akhona ukuthi aphendule lapho-ke mayelana nodaba lolo-ke ngoba kusiwe uthatha isinqumo-ke lapho-ke kepha-ke ithimba noma-ke ihhovisi labashushisi abakhulu sho ukuthi lapho-ke National Director of Prosecutors ngesingisi uthatha isinqumo thizeni umuntu kumele bamthuse icala noma akumele ukuthi bamthuse icala.
Is it please the court, my lord? This witness had already gave the reason why the application for the warrant of arrest against Kelly was declined.
By whom? Declined by whom? That's the point.
That doesn't matter, my lord, for me, in my cross-examination.
For me, it matters because I'm a judge. And then, if you say there's a person who has power to have declined a particular exigency, I must understand that language. That's why I said I let it pass when you said it was not authorized. It was declined.
Yes. Maybe just to assist the court as to who did not authorize it.
Yes.
The witness can answer that.
That's it. That's different.
Yes.
Manje bacela ukwazi ukuthi ngabe ubani ke lo ongakaze avume ekuthizeni ke avume incwadi le oduyisensile masicelo sakho sencwadi mayelana nokuthi uKelly Khumalo aboshwe.
My Lord, the procedure was as I've indicated. You collect the evidence, we forward it to the DPP here in Pretoria. Then decisions will be given to say indict on these ones, further investigation. That's how it unfolded, my Lord.
Athi ke lapho ke isizathu salokho ukuthi yena ke wathatha ke ufakazi kaDanabo ke futhi wamnikisa kumahhovisi abashushisi abakhulu amakwethimba abashushisi abakhulu lehhovisi lana ke Pretoria besathi ngemuva kwalokho bese umthetho na kumele uhambe ngalana kamacala malana nalabantu.
But it was not, the correct context, my Lord, that must be explained. There was no decline. We never reached a deadlock with DPP where they say, despite this evidence, we don't want to charge. There were, as I've said, there were further instructions and the approach that the DPP wanted to take in prosecuting the case. And that's not my terrain, my Lord. I can't impose. I can only present what I have and take guidance from the people who will lead the case during the prosecution. But it will not be correct to say there was a refusal. There were certain discussions, but there were no position to say, despite what we see, we don't agree or we refuse. It was simply further instruction at first, and then the approach to the matter. That was my understanding of why then the Kelly Khumalo was not added.
Athi ke lapho ngeke athina ke incwadi leyo bayinqaba abakaze bayivumeka abayithimba labashushisi abakhulu ke lapho ke kepha uyasho khona nje ngemuva kwenkulumo zabo noma ngesikhathi kade bekhulumisana khona njalo beqoqa ithimba lakhe kule thimba labashushisi ke lapho ke labamtshela khona ukuthi ngoba kade besaphina ke icala futhi bona kwathatha isinqumo sokuthizeni lo nto leyo ingenzeki mhlawumbe abaza nohlangothi ukuthi lo daba lo lungenzeki atakusuye futhi yena lapho ke akanawo umthelela walolu daba lo.
And lastly, my Lord, it will really be, I think, difficult for me and to an extent unfair if then I'm placed in a position where I must speak on behalf of the NPA, because then I don't think I have that ground. I did my part. I presented the evidence and I indicated what was discussed. I'm not sure if I'm in a position to take it further than that insofar as the decisions that the NPA take, my Lord. I don't think I'm qualified to do that.
Athena ke acabanga ukuthi usesimeni esiqondile noma esimeni esikahle ethizini kakhulu mana nenqumo ithathwa lapho ka ithimba labashushisi abakhulu kuhhovisi labashushisi abakhulu ke lapho ke ngoba ke bona kwasebenza ngendlela yabo ekhethekile eyaziwa yibona kuphela yena akathakanalo ulwazi ukuthi bona kwasebenza kanjani uma ngaba iza kudaba lokuthi bathatheke inqumo athi futhi akazi ukuthi isathu yini sokuthi kungadweba ukuthi bangamniki ukuthi bangayivumi ke lapho ke noma bangamvumele noma mhlawumbe bayinqabe incwadi yakhe kade ayicelile ekuthizeni naye bamthwese icala futhi mayelana nokuthi aboshwe futhi athwese icala njengokufana nabaso.
Those are my responses, my Lord.
Athi yebo iyona ke impendulo yakhe leyo.
Brigadier, you've mentioned the reason why it was not approved. It was for further instructions. My question was very simple. What did this mean, this further instruction? What was this further instructions for?
Bathe bakuzile ke umbuzo ke mnumzana obaba Brigadier Gininda ukuthi kungani bengayivumile incwadi isicelo sakhe okuthizeni uKelly Khumalo naye aboshwe futhi athwesa amacala njengabasolwa ke esathuna kungemuva kwezinkulumo zenu ke lezo ke ninazo ke lapho ke manje ummeli ufisa ukwazi ukuthi izinkulumo ziphi ke lezo.
My Lord, the procedure when you submit a docket to the DPP, you submit the docket and then you leave. You do not sit like for instance in this situation where there are 3 advocates. I've never been in a situation where I sit with them and hear their views insofar as the decision, particularly in the decision-making process, where I'm part of it. So that's why I'm saying it's difficult for me to be placed as to why action insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo is concerned was taken, because I was not there. All I can say is that there were instructions for further investigation at the beginning, and then subsequently the case then it kicked off, because when I applied for a warrant of arrest, the case had already kicked off in Boksburg. In other words, the first appearance on the 27th of October had already came and gone. And the next appearance, I think, was on the 27th of November, somewhere there. So I'm not sure if I can take it further than that, my Lord, insofar as the NPA position is concerned. I'm not qualified, my lord, really, with due respect.
Athi yena ke lapho kokwenzeka ngesikhathi kade amikisa ke ipresentation yakhe mhlawumbe idocket lakhe kumahhovisi wethimba labashushisi ke abakhulu ke lapho kade yena kakaza ahlale phansi nabo futhi afuna idocket nabo bese bakhulumisana ngedocket bebonkana mhlawumbe hlezi bebathathu ke lapho ke asithi mhlawumbe yena njengomholi lokade ahola ke ithimba labaseshi bezosiphoyisa futhi nethimba labashushisi ke lapho ke athina into awayenza ukuthi amikise ke docket lapho ke phela bese ahambe ke lapho ke athakaza ukuthi bona ngesikhathi ade bebheke idocket ukuthi yini siphi isinqumo noma yini into ebanthe kusinqumo abasithatha ke lapho ke futhi athi ukhumbula khona nje ukuthi ngelanga la nge-27 zaka October ngesikhathi baqedela lapho ke usetha icala malana nalomuntu othizeni ke lapho ke kade sele abasola bebavele sebeqhamukile ngaphambi kwenkantolo yaseBoksburg ngelanga la nge-27 zaka October futhi athi acabanga khona nje ukuthi mhlambe baqhamuka ngaphambi kwenkantolo futhi ngelanga la nge-27 zaka November khona lapho akanaso isiqiniseko selanga lesibili ngesikhathi atenivela ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo.
And the instruction, my lord, for further investigations insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo was really the instruction that said find more evidence to connect Ms. Kelly Khumalo to the accused in this matter. It was just around that, my lord.
Athi futhi malana nenkulumo ke yaqhamuka ekuthizeni ngesikhathi kade bemtshela kahamba ayophenyisa isicala noma mhlamba enze kokuphenya kwecala kahle ngeqondile futhi endlela ejulile kade bamtshela ukuthi yena ke noma mhlamba inkulumo kade ihambisana kulolu noma kade ihamba ngalo hlangothi lokuthi kumele ukuthi ahambe ayophenya icala lakhe kahle ngendlela ejulile futhi ngendlela eqondile ke bese abuye athole ukuthi ngabe yini exhumanisa uKelly Khumalo futhi nabasolwa kule cala leli.
That's my response, my lord.
Athi yona ke impendulo yakhe anayo leyo.
Thank you, Brigadier. At least the final point, it sounds more intelligent. The instruction that came from the office of the DPP was to the effect that go find more evidence to connect Kelly to the accused person, and therefore on those bases, we want authorize, we want authorize that a warrant of arrest against her should be issued.
Athi lapho ke uyabonga ke babu Brigadier Gininda ngoba impilo yakhe yona impilo ehlakaniphile le impilo ugcina ukhulumile athi lapho kusubatshela ukuthi wena ke hamba uyothola ufakazi obuqondile futhi ufakazi lobo obuxhumanisa ke abasola bonkana futhi noKelly Khumalo ngaphambi ukuthi ke ithimba labashushisa abakhulu noma ihhovisi abashushisa abakhulu ke lapho ke bavume mana nesicelo sakho sencwadi yakho ekuthizeni ke uKelly Khumalo naye aboshwe.
I'm listening, man.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
Now, in other words, that which you had presented to the office of the DPP, with which you are trying to link Kelly Khumalo to the commission of these offenses here, the DPP looked at it and found that no, it's something that they cannot use to drag Kelly or to frog march Kelly into the court.
And then things got heated when the state took offense at the comments made by Advocate Mnisi.
As a court, please, my lord. I really fail to understand this line of cross-examination. The witness has repeatedly said he doesn't know what the reasons are, why the office, the DPP, took this particular decision, and we submit, my lord, that it's unfair now to ask this question to the witness. He's already said he can't take it further than that. As a court, please.
Maybe the state is listening to another evidence here. The witness says, I cannot take it further than that.
I think these acerbic and obnoxious comments from my learned friends should now come to a stop. I think he should just carry on with his work without having to make these ad hominem attacks.
This witness says, I'm unable to take it further than that. But because he's such an laborious person, he finally comes to a point where he says that he was instructed to go find more evidence to connect Kelly to the accused persons. That is the reason why I am saying that apparently the state is listening, it's not listening to the same evidence that we're listening to here. Whether that is acerbic or what, it's for him to make that judgment. But I'm meticulously listening to this witness, which is the reason why I am then saying, Brigadier Gininda, thank you very much. Because at least what you have just said in the last part of your answer makes sense. That the DPP said to you, we are unable to authorize that warrant of arrest because what you have brought to us now is insufficient. Can you please go and find more evidence in order to connect Kelly Khumalo to this accused person? It came from this witness. So what is acerbic there? But in any event, let me proceed.
Now the acerbic,
Let me proceed, my lord.
it's not what you are saying, it's what your comment is.
That the state is not listening to the same evidence.
Yeah.
Exactly, my lord, because I do not expect such an objection from
You
my
know what?
colleague.
You guys have
or-
lectured you.
of such a senior level.
Mr. Mnisi. I've lectured you on the discourse of court proceedings.
Yes.
I actually read how you mustn't address each other. That's why I'm keeping quiet now. That's why I'm keeping quiet.
I think it's best for the court, my lord, to keep
Yeah,
quiet.
because
yes.
I've
Because then
realized that
Yes.
some councils here,
yes.
they don't care about etiquette, the etiquette and the decorum of court. He's listening to another case. That's why he's taking offense. Because he's
Exactly, my
only
lord.
listening to this case. And if you interpret that he's listening to another case, somebody angathi udakiwe mos.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
no interpretation. The
I don't know,
interpretation.
I don't know,
If he's
I
listening to
don't
another
know.
case and he's sitting
All-
here with me for 5 hours a day, then there's something wrong with him. That's how he interprets it. You can ask him.
My lord, the fact that somebody would say he's drunk, that doesn't come from me.
Yes.
It didn't come from me. I am only making that submission
You must,
simply
you
because
must analyze the word acerbic. Analyze it. Fine. Let's continue.
we can have a dictionary, my lord.
No,
that we can
I don't.
analyze
Me, I
this.
know. I don't want a dictionary. You can
Okay,
check
then
it.
I do not know it.
Yeah, fine.
Yes. But the fact of the matter is, at least this witness ultimately, painfully so, he mentioned that ultimately the office of the DPP told him to go find more evidence against Kelly Khumalo in order to tie her in this case. And thank you very much for that, sir.
My lord, I think I'm being quoted out of context. I've said that part and I've said it proper, so perhaps let me then start again. I said prior to the appearance of this accused, Ms. Kelly Khumalo was part of the people based on the evidence that we had, which I was of the view that she should be arraigned with the accused. We then,
Athi-ke ufakazi ngixolisa baba ngixolisa. Athi-ke ufakazi lapho ke yena ke abamzwile kahle futhi ucanga ukuthi mhlawumbe lo daba lo alidikide ngendlela elandelayo mhlawumbe alusho ngale ndlela elandelayo. Athi ngaphambi kokuthi abasola baqhamuke ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo kade ke analo ke ulwazi oluthizeni ulwazi lolo ke kade luxhumanisa ukhile futhi nabasolwa kepha ke ngesikhathi beqeda uvela ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo.
so in essence, my lord, I'm saying when we made the first memorandum presenting the evidence which involved this accused, same was done insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo, and the same desire to have her arraigned was placed there at the beginning. That is now prior to the first appearance and the issuing of indictment.
Athi ngaphambi kokuthi bayowenza bona ke lapho ke memorandum yabo no memorandum yokuqala kade lokhu lohlelo abalenza malana nabasolwa ilulo abalenza futhi malana noKelly Khumalo ngaphambi ukuthi abasolwa bovela ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo.
Indictment came with the 5 accused, and that is where the instructions for further investigation insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo to add this accused then came as a response insofar as she is concerned.
Athi-ke lapho-ke khona-ke umbhalo mhlawumbe noma incwadi yaqhamuka lapho-ke incwadi le eqhamuka kwithimba noma kwihhovisi labashushisi abakhulu-ke lapho-ke la ibhala khona-ke amacala ekuthosa kubona-ke abantu futhi namagama wabasolwa-ke lapho-ke athi kuleyo ncwadi le kade kubhalwe-ke abasolwa abahlanu nje kuphela-ke bese ngemuva kwalokho bamtshela-ke lapha ehhovisi labashushisi abakhulu ekuthizeni akahambe ayokwenza-ke ophenya icala noma osesha-ke icala ekuthizeni athole lokhu kade kumele ukuthi akuthole ukuxhumanisa phakathi kwabasolwa futhi noKelly Khumalo.
That was done, my lord, which resulted now in the application, the statement that we're referring to, that we needed to arrest Ms. Kelly Khumalo in November 2014.
Athi lokho kwenziwa futhi manje nesicelo lesi wasenza-ke kade kungumnyaka kaNovember ngo-2014 ngenyanga kaNovember ngesikhathi wathola incwadi leyo ekuthizeni acela incwadi ekuthizeni-ke bamthwese noma aboshwe.
And this is the part, my lord, I'm referring to say it will be now unfair, and I'll be placed in a difficult position where I must now indicate why a decision insofar as that was not taken by the DPP, because I can't speak on behalf of the DPP. Instructions were given, followed, complied, but I do know that the strategy, as the matter was already enrolled, and I wanted to be clear, my lord, that what was clear, there was no denial or refusal that the DPP wants to pursue, want to proceed against Ms. Kelly Khumalo. But the difficulty is, I can't speak on behalf of the DPP, my lord. I followed the instructions, presented the evidence, and I think if this issue must be taken further, perhaps someone from DPP can deal with it, my lord. To place me there in that position, I think is really, because like I said, I don't sit in the decision-making situation. I don't have that authority, my lord.
Athi-ke lapho-ke na-ke manje silibambeka ngaphansi kwesimo-ke esicala noma ngaphansi kwesimo esinzima-ke lapho-ke ngoba thina angekhe akhona ukuphendula-ke ihhovisi lethimba labashushisi uma ngabe thatha-ke inqumo ekuthizeni ngabe kungani bathatha isinqumo basithathe sokuthi na-ke uKelly Khumalo angaqhamuke phambi kwenkosi enkantolo nabasolwa laba-ke futhi athi ngesikhathi ade bemtshela lokho-ke icala leli beselivele selifakiwe ngaphambi kwenkosi inkantolo encane.
So that's how far I can take it, my lord. What I wanted to correct is the insinuation that the part of the further investigation came last. It's not the other way. It's the other way around. Memorandum, indictment comes on the 5 accused. Further instructions comes insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo is concerned. That investigation was done and presented.
Athi lapho-ke memorandum wayenza lapho-ke ngemuva ukuthi enze memorandum yakhe lapho bese kwabuya-ke indictment isho ukuthi ile phepha le noma mhlawumbe le ncwadi lena-ke ebhalwa-ke amacala abathweswa-ke abantu futhi nenkantolo la bazovela ngaphambi kwayo futhi negama-ke labasolwa athi ngesikhathi bekathola-ke incwadi leyo-ke kade igama likaKelly Khumalo lingekho ngaphakathi kwale ncwadi leyo-ke kepha amagama kade akhona-ke amagama abasolwa bonkana laba abahlanu abavela ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo esikhathini samanje kethe ngemuva kwalokho kulabamtshela khona ukuthi na-ke akahambe ayokwenza futhi umsebenzi wakhe futhi ngendlela ejulile ekuthizeni aphenye ukuthi noma mhlawumbe aseshe ukuthi ngabe yini exhumanisa uKelly Khumalo futhi nabasolwa.
That's my response, my lord.
You saying, Brigadier, November 2014. I heard you saying that. November 2014 is almost a month after the death of the deceased. Were you already an investigating officer then?
Bathi ngizwe ukhuluma ngenyanga kaNovember ngomnyaka ka2014. Ukhumbule khona njalo ngoNovember ngomnyaka ka2014 bekungemuva nje kwesikhathi senyanga eyodwa ngemuva kokushona kukamufi. Ngabe ngizwe kahle yini Fakazi?
No. I think I made a mistake, my lord. That is why I said the accused made the first appearance on the 27th of October. The year should have been 2020, and the November I'm referring to is the one of 2020. So there was an error on my side, my lord.
Athi lapho ucabanga ukuthi wenze iphutha lapho-ke ngoba-ke abasolwa-ke ngesikhathi bevela ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo encane kade noma ngaphansi kwenkantolo encane-ke lapho-ke kade ku-27 zaka-October ngomnyaka ka-2020 nathi ngoba athi 2014 lapho kwathi wenze iphutha.
Let us put this item at rest, Brigadier. The directive that you got from the DPP's office with regard to the fact that the warrant of arrest against Kelly could not be authorized is because they were requesting you to go find more evidence to connect Kelly to the 5 accused. So,
But
in short.
bathi nje ngokunciphile baba usho ukuthi ngesikhathi kade uthola ke lapho ke inkulumo eqhamuka kuvisi lethimba labashushisi abakhulu kukuthi bacela ukuthi wena ke uhambe uyosesha icala uma usesha icala bese uthola ke ufakazi obuxhumanisa uKelly Khumalo futhi nabasola bobahlanu laba abavela ngaphambi kwenkosi yankantolo athi akusenjalo yini.
That was the instruction at the beginning, my lord, and that instruction was complied with. Hence, I'm saying in November 2020, there was then this application which contained more evidence that we had prior to the presentation, or that we had when we presented the memorandum.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo kepha la ukwenza ngomnyaka 2020 kepha ngesikhathi kusenzeka lokho ke kula kade naye ke kade sekamikisile ipresentation futhi kungemuva kokuthi bekavele anolwazi oluningi futhi ulwazi olujulile.
Now, you are saying, subsequent to this first directive that you need to go get more information to connect Kelly to the to the accused, you complied with those instructions and returned the case docket to the office of the DPP. Is that what you're saying?
Athi ngabe usho ukuthi ngemuva uthi ukuthola ke inkulumo lokuthi hamba uyokusesha icala noma uyophenya icala lakhe lapho ke leli bese uthola ulwazi oluxhumanisa ke uKelly Khumalo futhi nabasola bobahlanu labaqhamuka phambi kwenkosi yankantolo athi usho ukuthi ngemuva kade umikisa lolu lwazi bona ludokhethi kwena.
No. What I'm saying is the office of the DPP says to Brigadier Gininda, at this moment we are unable to allow the authorization of the warrant of arrest against Kelly Khumalo because we want you to go and find more evidence to connect Kelly Khumalo to the accused. That's all it is.
Silungiswa ke lapho ke bathi umnumzana uBrigadier Gininda bamtshela ukuthi ethimba laba le office abashushisi abakhulu ukuthi akahambe ke athole ulwazi lo oluningi futhi olujulile oxhumanisa abasola bobahlanu ke futhi noKelly Khumalo ngaphambi ukuthi bavume mayelana nodaba lencwadi yakhe yesicelo ekuthi iziye naye ke aboshwe.
Now, is he then saying, subsequent to this instruction, he went out and did further investigation and then remitted that case back to the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions?
Bathi ke ngemuva kwale nkulumo shuthi wena ke wahamba wasesha icala noma mhlawumbe waphenya icala bese ngemuva kwaloko babuya futhi wamikisa idoketi kuthimba labashushisi abakhulu.
Because I heard him saying that those instructions were complied with.
Ngoba athi uzwe usithi inkulumo yabo wayisala emuva bese wenza njengoba kade utsheliwe.
Yes, my lord. As I indicated, it was a prosecutorial-driven investigation. The directive for further investigation came from the office of the DPP. Once that was done, the presentation was made to the same office because that was the prosecuting authority. I couldn't take it elsewhere because you get directives in that office.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo ngoba ukhumbule khona njalo lapho ke na kuthola ke inkulumo futhi kade besebenzisana ithimba leziphoyisa labaseshi emathimba yebo ithimba labashushisi futhi ithimba leziphoyisa kade besebenzisana ndawonye ke lapho ke athi yebo walalela futhi inkulumo yabo kuthizeni akahambe othola ke ulwazi olugcwele noma mhlawumbe aseshe icaca icala ngogcwele athi ngemuva kwalokho siwamikisa lokho kade akutholile futhi lapho ke nakazi ukuthi isinqumo uma sithathwa lapha basatha ngaphansi kwezihlalo ezinjani ke noma ngaphansi kwesimo esinjani ngoba lapho ke akasebenzi khona ke futhi uma abashushisi bethatha inqumo yena akakho lapho.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And then subsequent to this later submission of the case docket by yourself to the office of the DPP, then the office of the DPP came with a final decision on who must be indicted and on who must not be indicted, not so.
Bathi usuthi ngemuva kokuthi wena ke umikisa ke submission yakho mhlawumbe umikisa ke ulwazi lakho ngemuva kwesikhathi ke lapho ke usho ukuthi ithimba labashushisi bathatha isinqumo sokuthi ubani kumele athuswe icala nokuthi ubani kungamele athuswe icala akusenjalo yini?
No, it's not like that. It's incorrect, my lord.
Athi cha akukho njalo akulona iqiniso lelo.
The first submission was made prior to October 2020. That submission included Ms. Kelly Khumalo.
athi lapho-ke ngesikhathi bekayimikisa ipresentation yakhe noma mhlawumbe isubmission yakhe lokho kwenzeka ngaphambi komnyaka ka-2020 futhi lapho-ke noKelly Khumalo kade akhona ngaphakathi kwesubmission futhi equkethiwe igama lakhe lapho-ke.
Now, in response to that submission, my lord, an indictment that we referred to yesterday, the BNG1, dated 22 October 2020, was given. And in that indictment, these accused were people that were chosen to say you can proceed with the 5 accused on the following charges, which is what we referred to yesterday on BNG1, my lord.
Athi lapho-ke ngesikhathi bekaya lapho-ke ethola lokho-ke abathi i-BNG1 ngomnyaka ngelanga lange-22 zaka-October ngomnyaka 2020 ngesikhathi bekathola incwadi leqhamuka kwithimba lehhovisi labashushisi abakhulu kula watshelwa khona-ke malana nodaba lwencwadi lapho kade ibhaliwe khona-ke ekuthizeni kumele aqhubeke necala lakhe malana nalabantu abalandelayo-ke abahlanu abavela phambi kwenkesenkantolo kumanje.
The warrant of arrest, my lord, affidavit was made by me, and then it was authorized on the 23rd of October 2020 for all 5 accused. Warrants of arrest were issued.
Athi lapho-ke bale incwadi ukuthi-ke abasola ababoshwe-ke lapho-ke incwadi leyo bayivuma futhi bese bayikhipha-ke ngelanga lange-23 zaka-October ngomnyaka ka-2020 ngomnyaka ka-2020-ke lapho-ke mayelana nabasola bobahlanu laba abaqhamuka phambi kwenkesenkantolo kumanje.
Insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo, further instructions were given to say go and do further investigation at that stage, my lord.
Athi futhi malana nodaba lakaKelly Khumalo kulapho kwaqhamuka khona-ke inkulumo ukuthi yena-ke akahambe ufakazi ayosesha icala ngokugcwele futhi ngokujulile mayelana nodaba lakaKelly Khumalo.
The accused before court were notified of these charges. Notice of rights were given to them on the 26th of October 2020, and on the 27th of October 2020, they made the first appearance in Boksburg Magistrate Court. That is October now, 2020.
Athi-ke futhi umajobele ngingazela kathi ngelanga lange-26 zaka-October ngomnyaka ka-2020 kula khona-ke naboshwa ngalo-ke bese mqeda oboshwa nafundela amalungelo enu ngemuthi mfundela amalungelo enu bese ngelanga elilandelayo ilanga lange-27 zaka-October ngomnyaka ka-2020 bese naqala navela ngaphambi kwenkosenkantolo okokuqala ngaphansi kwenkantolo yase-Boksburg.
Now, subsequent to that, my lord, instructions or the instructions for further investigations were being conducted by me and the team. Then in November of 2020, after collecting more evidence, this docket now, this is the part we are referring to, the second part, was then submitted again with the evidence and the proposal that Kelly should now be added. This is now the second time around insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo is concerned.
Athi-ke malana nodaba lakaKelly Khumalo ngenyanga kaNovember-ke ngomnyaka ka-2020 ngesikhathi bekamikisa-ke ingxenye yosesha kwicala lakhe yena-ke nethimba lakhe kade besesha khona-ke mayelana nodaba lakaKelly Khumalo malana nolwazi kade belitholile lapho-ke kulaba nimikisa khona-ke bese bacela ukuthi uKelly Khumalo abamjobelele kulabasola bamfake.
So that's what happened, my lord. So the matter in essence was already enrolled when I complied with the instructions of further investigation from Ms. Kelly Khumalo.
Athi lapho-ke yona-ke indlela ekwenzeka ngayo-ke izinto-ke lapho-ke futhi yena wayilalela inkulumo kade bemtshele yona-ke ithimba lehhovisi abashushisi abakhulu bese wesala-ke emuva wenza njengoba kade bemtshelile.
Thank you, Brigadier. I just want to make assurance establish that I follow what you're saying. In brief, you submitted this docket and your memorandum to the office of the DPP where you also recommended that Kelly Khumalo must be charged, not so?
Athi-ke ngokunciphile yona-ke wasubmitha idokhethi leli-ke kwithimba lehhovisi abashushisi abakhulu-ke bese wacela ukuthi uKelly Khumalo abamjobelele nabamfake lana kulabasola kusenjalo.
That's correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
The DPP went through that memorandum and the case docket and decided to indict the 5 accused that are before court here and gave you instructions to go get more evidence to connect Kelly to or with these 5 accused persons.
Athi lapho kusho ukuthi ithimba labashushisi abakhulu bese bakunika lapho i-indictment noma incwadi bayibiza ukuthi indictment incwadi leyo-ke ibhalwe amagama abasola futhi amacala abathwesa bona-ke futhi ngemuva kwalapho bese bakutshela ukuthi wena hamba uyokwenza uphenya kwicala lakho mayelana noKelly Khumalo uthole ulwazi olumxhumanisa nabasola bonkana kusenjalo.
My lord, further instructions were given insofar as Ms. Kelly Khumalo.
Athi lapho-ke khona-ke inkulumo abamtshela yona-ke mayelana nodaba lakaKelly Khumalo.
Yes. Some of which are, go find more evidence to connect Kelly Khumalo with these accused persons in the commission of the offense, not so?
Bathi mina nenkulumo ke lapho okade bekutshele yona ke ithimba labashushisi abakhulu kuwukuthi thola ulwazi olujulile noma ulwazi oluningi ulwazi lolo okuzoba ufakazi mayelana nokuxhumana kwabasolwa abaqhamuka phambi kwesenkantolo futhi noKelly Khumalo mayelana naso lesigameko lesi akusinjalo.
Yes, that could have been part of it, but it was basically to obtain evidence, my lord, that will link it to the offense.
Athi yebo lokho kade kuzohambisana nalokho kepha bekuwukuthi sithole ke ufakazi obuxhumanisa ke obuxhumana nobunye ufakazi esinabo kulicala.
Thank you. Now, in the meantime, warrant of arrest will authorize against these 5 accused now.
Athi ke ngesikhathi leso kwesakhipha ke incwadi ukuthi ke abasola bonkana laba abahlanu ke ababoshwe.
That is correct, my lord.
Yebo kunjalo.
The warrant of arrest were executed, and ultimately they made their first appearance in Boksburg somewhere in 27 October 2020, not so?
Bathi lapho ke ngemuva ukuthi bakhiphe incwadi ethize ke abasola ababoshwe incwadi ngemuva bayikhiphe bese nayisala emuva na incwadi leyo bese nabathola abasola nababopha ke ngemuva ukuthi abasola ababoshwe bese baqala bavela ngaphambi kwenkantolo ke encane yaseBoksburg ke lapho ke ngelanga la nge-27 zaka October ngomnyaka ka-2020 akusinjalo?
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
Thank you. And then around November, you then took, now I don't know whether you wrote another memorandum, but then you then took the case docket that you were investigating with whatever that you would have unearthed subsequent to the indictment of this accused person and the instruction that you got from the DPP. You took it back to the office of the DPP to decide whether or not Kelly must be indicted, not so?
Bathi lapho kona umikisa ke futhi akazi mhlawumbe angathi docket noma indictment ngesikhathi bohamba ngonyaka kaNovember ngomnyaka ka2020 uya lapha kuhhovisi abashushisi abakhulu mayelana nolwazi adulitholile bese wacela ukuthi wena uKelly Khumalo abamfake kulabasola mhlawumbe bamjobelele kulabasola kusinjalo yini?
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
Would that be the time when you made an application for a warrant of arrest?
Bathi ngabo yisona ke isikhathi leso la kade wena ke wenza incwadi yesicelo sokuthi uKelly Khumalo akaboshwe.
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
Thank you. And that was in November 2020.
Bathi lokho ngabe kwenzeka ngenyanga kaNovember ngomnyaka ka2020.
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
Thank you. And the trial at the High Court commenced when in 2023, before the Honorable Judge Judge Maumela, that is in 2022. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I was not yet. Oh, in 2022. Thank you.
Bathi ke ngesikhathi ke icala behlelule phansi ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo noma ngaphambi kwenkantolo ephakeme kade kumnyaka ka2022 futhi inkosi enkantolo kade ku Judge Maumela akusinjalo?
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
And up until that moment, a decision had not yet been made by the office of the DPP to charge Kelly or not.
Bathi ke suthi ngaso lesikhathi leso isinqumo kade singaqhamuki kuba kwithimba labashushisi abakhulu ekuthizeni bathwese uKelly Khumalo amacala noma bangamthwesi amacala akusinjalo?
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
And this is despite the fact that you had, in November 2020, placed the information that was contained in the docket against her. That's now the new information that you received, not so?
Suthi ngaphandle kokuthi wena kade umikiseke ulwazi olusha kade unalo ke ngenyanga kaNovember ngomnyaka ka2020 ngabe akusinjalo yini?
Yes, I did submit the docket in November 2020, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo ngalimikisa mina ke docket ngenyanga kaNovember ngomnyaka ka2020.
Thank you. Now, we're in a position, or we're in a situation where the 5 accused we're in a position where the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions takes a decision and say, let us indict these 5 accused persons who are now appearing here at court. But with regard to Kelly, let us see if there's information that will come up for us to be able to give out an instruction to indict her. But for now, we do not indict her.
Bathi manje athi ummeli manje singaphansi kwesimo ke isimo lisihamba ngale ndlela elandelayo. Isimo sakhona ukuthi ithimba lehhovisi abashushisi abakhulu eNational Director of Prosecution ukuthi bathi bona ke asithwese abasula abahlanu amacala bese ke uKelly Khumalo nasime kancane ngayo.
As a court, please, my lord. I think counsel was saying that with the greatest of respect is misconceiving the evidence of the witness. The witness has confined his response not only to the evidence but also to strategy, which counsel doesn't touch upon. The witness has said it also boils down to question of strategy, so it's not only about the evidence.
My lord, I can talk about what is before this court. I can speak about what is before this court. Before this court, the 5 accused persons that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions decided to indict. But in the memorandum and the case docket, we know, in terms of the evidence of this witness, that he recommended that Kelly Khumalo must also be charged. Then the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution says, no, we are unable to issue that directive now because we want you to go get more evidence against Kelly to connect her against these individuals. It will be very imprudent of me to start to talk about strategies. This court is not concerned about strategies, it's concerned about what is before him now. And I can only confront this witness about what is before this court. And before this court are these 5 accused persons, and what is also before this court is what this witness has said about Kelly. Thank you.
And if I may respond to that, my lord, the issue pertaining to Ms. Kelly Khumalo, it's a collateral issue. And the law is very clear. An answer to a collateral issue should put that issue to rest. It doesn't help to pursue that issue over and over again. Counsel might not like the answer, but that's what the law says. It's a collateral issue, and the answer to that issue should put that matter to rest. There's no point in flogging the issue over and over again.
As it is the court, my lords, there's nothing wrong that I'm doing in what I'm doing now. I am simply summarizing contextually the testimony of this witness here. This witness come up with the fact that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions gave him further instructions to go get more evidence to connect Kelly with these 5 accused persons here. This witness further told to this court that as a result of that, the warrant of arrest against Kelly could not be authorized. This witness told to this court that in November he again took back that case docket to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. But up until now, the position as is that Kelly is not one of the accused persons that are before court here. What is not worth pursuing in terms of that picture, my lord?
And then there was the small matter of the correct pronunciation.
I will flogged this horse until it comes up or it gets alive.
What? You're going to do what?
The state says it is no use flogging something which is not there.
Flogging?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yes. I remember, my lord, I'm from Mandleto High School. The teachers who taught us English, they would say words in isiZulu, and you say in English, this is the word. Yes. These things of how to pronounce words, they were not there. Although we knew that sometimes when we would go to debate there outside, we would say there's no master of pronunciation. Yes, we grew up knowing that there's no master of pronunciation. You see. So when I say flog, should be understood in the context of what my colleague was saying. Yes. So he says there's no use in flogging or in flogging what is not there. And my response to him is, if it needs be, I'll keep on flogging and flogging and flogging up until such time that the horse comes alive. Thank you, man.
Advocate Mnisi wasn't backing off on the Kelly Khumalo matter, to the irritation of Advocate Baloyi for the state.
Thank you, sir. Now, that is the mosaic, that is the complete picture that you have now presented on your preparation of the memorandum, your submission of your memorandum and the case docket to the court, and the processes that went through the decision-making by the state, who had to be indicted and who had not to be indicted, in summary.
Athi komaqedela ke inkulumo yakho noma umayiqedela futhi ayisho njengesithombe esigcwele ukuthi mayana nolwazi kade ke unaloko kuwena wathatha konke lokho kade unako ke bese wahamba nako presenta ngaphambi kwabashushisi noma ngaphambi kwethimba labashushisi abakhulu ke bese ngemuva kwaloko wathola ke indictment usho indictment ile esho ukuthi kumele ukuthi abasola kube abobani futhi kwakuthi abasola kube abobani futhi namacala abawathosa ukuthi kumele kube amacala waphike lapho ke noma kumele ukuthi kube amacala maphi.
Yes, in essence, that's what happened, my lord.
Athi yebo njengogcwele yilokho okwenzeka.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, Brigadier, you had read into record the outcome of the decision of the Director of Public Prosecutor in respect of the memorandum and the case docket that you submitted. You read here that exhibit, I don't know, exhibit 22, you reread it into the record, and you also referred to this court to the instructions that were attached in the statement as BNG1. So,
athi-ke baba khona ke la kade ufunda khona ke izolo ukhumbule khona njalo mayelana nesinqumo esaqhamuka kuthimba labashushisi abakhulu futhi mayelana nenkulumo kade bekutshela yona ukuthi kumele ukuthi lapho bathwese bani icala athi lapho ke le nkulumo kade ufunda ngaphansi kwekhasi la ka BNG1 akusinjalo?
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo?
I'm sorry, my lord, I'm just been corrected here. It's not exhibit 22, this handwriting. It's actually being said that it is exhibit ZZ, not 22. But when you look at it, it looks like 22. Not so, Mr. Ramsuti. It looks like 22. Yeah. Thank you.
Athi lapho ke uyaxolisa nje silungise sinane ukuthi umbukiso lo ngakhona kumbukiso ka 22 amashumi amabili anesibili kepha umbukiso lo uZZ2.
Thank you, my lord. Now we know that in terms of that decision, number one, the DPP says to you, Mr. Gininda, thank you for your investigation.
Athi manje siyazi ukuthi malana nodaba lakho okhona lapho ukuthi ithimba lehhovisi abashushisi bathi bakubonga babu Gininda malana nokusesha kucala.
Now we have come to the concerted view, to the considered view that Mr. Sibia, Mr. Ntanzi, Mr. Nube, Mr. Mapisa, and Mr. Ntuli should be indicted for trial in the High Court of South Africa.
Lapho kade afuna khona ke amagama akhe ka wasola waqhamuka ngaphambi konke abavela ngaphambi kokusenkantolo lapho ke umnumzana uSibiya umnumzana uNtanzi umnumzana uMncube ukuthi futhi noMaphisa ukuthi bona ngibona kumele baqhamuke ngaphambi kokusenkantolo.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that decision.
Athi akukho okungalungile mayelana nesinqumo sabo.
Now, the DPP has got all the prerogative, the discretion, the powers to take such a decision.
Athi lapho ke ihhovisi labashushisi abakhulu ke bana wonke ke amandla noma banako ngaphansi komthetho ekuthize masithathe isinqumo noma isiphi abasifuna ke.
Do you still follow that far?
Athi ngabe usangilandela nje namanje.
Yes, I do follow, my lord.
Thank you, sir.
Athi yebo ngizakuzwa.
Now, further to that, the DPP says, Brigadier Gininda, this is just the first step. The second step is, let us identify what charges must we then bring against them for them to go and face at the High Court.
Athi ke lelo ke uhambo lokuqala. Bese ke uhambo lwesibili ke lapho kukuthi ngabe babuza ukuthi ngabe iwaphi ke amacala ukuthi sibathwese wona ke ngaphambi kokuthi bahambe bovela ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo ephakeme.
Now,
Excuse me, my lord,
Yes.
just to come in there. I don't think that was discussed with me. I was not part of the decision making, even in terms of the charges. I may have known murder,
Yes.
it's straightforward, but to say, let us discuss that we go for these charges, I was not part of that. All I know is further instructions and the strategy that the NPA said they will adopt at a later stage. But with regard to decision making and charges, I was not part of that, my lord.
Athi ke lapho ke shwele nje kancane babumnisi noma mnumzana umnisi kunalapha nokuthi angenele khona ke ukuthi ithimba lehhovisi abashushisi ngesikhathi bethatha ke isinqumo khona ke lapho sokuthi zena abasolwa babathwesa amacala amaphike lapho kathi kade angekho lapho ke futhi kade angeyongxenye yawo umhlangana lawo ke kepha thina bakazi nje ngecala lokuqala ukuthi zicala lokubulala nje kuphela leli kade bebathwesa lona.
thank you. You're right, Brigadier. But when I say the DPP says to Brigadier Gininda, this and that, I do not literally mean that you were seated this side, the DPP seated this side, and is communicating with you. I don't know whether they are calling what I'm saying it's a metaphor or it's I don't know, but I'm just trying to express it in a way as if the DPP is talking to you, although I know they did not speak to you.
Athi ke lapho uyazi ukuthi ithimba labalovisi abashushisa abakhulu abakaze bakhulume nawe ngesikhathi etwethathe isinqumo lapho ke futhi kade zama nje ukubikisa ukuthi yena ke futhi unagcina bekutshela ukuthi kumele ukuthi wenze ini futhi akasho ukuthi wena ngabe kade ukhona ke ngesikhathi esemihlanganele ngesikhathi ade behlanganele endaweni eyodwa ke ngaphambi kokuthi athathe isinqumo lapho ke ukuthi mhlawumbe kade uhlezi ehlangothini isandla sokunxele noma ehlangothini isandla sokudla kepha ke bekazama nje ukwenza nje isibukiso lapho mhlawumbe isibonelo nje sincane.
I understand, my lord.
Athi yebo ngiyazwisisa.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now it takes me back to Mandleto. I know this aspect of what I'm doing now. They exactly taught me, but with a lapse of time, I think I might have, I'm missing what is it that it was actually being referred to, you see. But it is definitely there. There I can't fault them. They taught me this. But thank you very much for your understanding. So we together when I say, don't take this literally as if they were speaking to you, not so.
Athi
Thank
yabonga
you.
ngokuthi niyazwisisana futhi ngabe nihamba ekhasini elilodwa noma mhlambe ohlangothini olulodwa ke uma wena ungayithathi le nkulumo ngongathi wena ke kade ukhona lapho ke baba uGininda futhi ukukhulumisana bomathupha.
I understand, my lord.
Thank you, sir.
Athi yebo ngiyazwisisa.
Now, the office of the DPP says to Brigadier Gininda, having decided on the identity of the people that we need to indict based on the evidence that is there in the docket, now we need to decide what charges should they go and face at the High Court.
Athi ke manje ngemuva kwesikhathi ke lapho kusho ithimba lehhovisi abashushisa abakhulu bahlezi phansi babuke idocket futhi presentation yakho bese wathatha isinqumo sokuthi ngabe kahlahle kumele abasolwa kwabathwesa amacala waphi ke ngaphambi kokuthi abasolwa baqhamuke phambi kwenkosi enkantolo ephakeme.
I'm following, my lord.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you, sir. Now the DPP further says to you, Brigadier Gininda, for us to be able to come to this conclusion on what charges should the people that we have decided to indict face at the High Court, we have taken the following into account.
Esathi lapho ke abantu labo akazi ukuthi abobanike kade bethatha isinqumo noma kade behlezi ngesikhathi bethatha isinqumo lapho ke besathi bona ke bese bathatha isinqumo sokuthi ngaphambi kokuthi abasolwa baqhamuke ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo yile sinqumo esilandelayo abazosithatha.
Number one,
Sokuqala
we have considered we would have a reasonable prospect of success against them when we prosecute them on the charges that we are going to prefer against them.
Athi lapho ke ukuthi mhlambe kade bengenazo insolo mhlambe noma kade benazo insolo ukuthi ngabe mhlambe kukhona noma akukho yini lokhu ukuthi mhlambe bazobathwesa bona ngaphambi ukuthi baqhamuke ngaphambi kungesenkantolo noma mhlambe macala ukuthi bazobathwesa wona ke ngaphambi kokuthi abasola baqhamuke ngaphambi kungesenkantolo.
I'm following my note.
Thank you.
Ngilalele.
Number 2,
Athi okwesibili
they say to you, Brigadier Gininda, for us to determine whether we've got any reasonable prospect of successfully prosecuting them, we need to determine whether is there any admissible evidence against them.
athi lapho ke ngaphambi kokuthi bese babuye bakhuluma nabathi ngaphambi kokuthi bona babathwese ke amacala bathi kade bezobathwesa bona ke futhi ngaphambi kokuthi abasola baqhamuke ngaphambi kokusenkantolo bona kade mhlambe benakuyingabaza futhi benakuyingabaza ogcwele ukuthi mhlambe ngabe amacala abazowathwesa bona ke ngabe khona yini ufakazi inkosi enkantolo yothi ibamukele phambi kwayo.
I'm following my note.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
Whether is there any relevant and admissible evidence against them.
Ukuthi mhlambe ngabe khona yini into ehambisanayo futhi nofakazi kade bukhona ke mayelana nabo bonkana abasolo.
Whether do we have any form of relevant and admissible circumstantial evidence against them.
Futhi nokuthi ngabe khona yini ufakazi kade benabo ufakazi lobo obungaqondile kubo mathupha mayelana naloko kade bekwenzile futhi nokuthi ngabe kade khona yini ufakazi kade bahambisana futhi nalenkulumo ukuthi mayelana namacala wabo noma ufakazi bukhona mayelana nodaba lwamacala kade bebathwesa wona.
Whether,
athi yebo ngiyazwisisa.
thank you, whether in view of what you presented to us, are there any possible defenses to the charges that you are going to prefer against them?
Futhi ukuthi imalana namacala noma ipresentation kade uyimikise kubona ukuthi ngabe mhlambi kubona abasolwa ke bayokhona ukuthi bayimele mhlawumbe ukuthi bayikhulumele mayana nalamacala kade owamikise mhlawumbe nepresentation le kade uyimikisile kwithimba le office labashushisi.
I'm listening, my lord.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you. Now I can't remember these other factors, for obvious reasons. But the list goes on and on and on and on and on. That is called a decision-making process by the DPP or by a prosecution.
Athi akanaso isiqiniseko sokuthi ngabe khona futhi amanye awakhumbulayo amaphuzu lapho ke kepha ke amaphuzu lawo ke maningi futhi adwebile lapho ke ngokusalana emuva kepha kathi iwona ke amaphuzu abavame ukuthi ithimba labashushisi abakhulu ngaphambi ukuthi bathathe isinqumo sokuthi bathwesa ke abasola amacala kumele ukuthi bawabuke futhi wabukisise kahle ngokujulile futhi ngokuqondile.
Now the office of the DPP says to you, Brigadier, those are the factors that we have taken into account in determining the nature of the charges that you are going to prefer against these people that we have decided to indict.
Athi lapho ke ithimba le office labashushisa abakhulu bayakutshela ke ukuthi wena ke yiwona ke amaphuzu abasaleke emuva lawo ke bese babuka bawubukisisa kahle ngaphambi kokuthi bathathe isinqumo sokuthi bathwesa abasolwa amacala athize noma abawathwesi amacala athize.
I'm following, my lord.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
And the office of the DPP, Brigadier, says to you, with due respect, Brigadier, we know, we understand that you undertook a very tedious investigation in this case. You did your job in a sterling way. There's no doubt about it.
Athi futhi ke ithimba le office abashushisa abakhulu bajethi bona ke abayingabazi mayelana nomsebenzi owenzile kona mnumzana uGininda ngoba uwenzise kahle futhi umsebenzi futhi ngokukhethekile futhi wawenza umsebenzi ngokuyimisela ngokuba nomdlondlo futhi ngesikhathi wenza umsebenzi wakho wokusesha kwecala.
You made a wonderful presentation in terms of your memory and your investigation. It's applauded.
Athi lapho ke futhi wakushayela ke izandla ngokuthi wena ke wenze umsebenzi oncomekayo noma umsebenzi okahleke mayelana nokusesha kwecala futhi mayelana nodaba lwakho le memorandum ngesikhathi bo present memorandum yakho.
Brigadier Gininda, we are well aware, now that is what those, now this is what those three esteemed team of prosecutors said on behalf of the office of the DPP. Remember, the office of the DPP operates in terms of the instrumentality of the advocates. Ne? So now these three esteemed advocates are then saying to you, Brigadier Gininda, we're also well aware that in your motivation, in your investigation, you had to try to come up with a suggestion that this could be a hit, this could be a hired killing, contract killing. We have seen that. You have also taken into account that which you have submitted to us in respect of that fact when we made this decision.
Athi yona ke ubona ke labantu abathathu mhlawumbe abashushisa abakhulu ngokuyikhundla zabo ke abathathu lapho ke noma bethatha isinqumo sabo bese bakutshela ukuthi ukhumbula khona njalo ke njengalabo abahlezi phambi kwenkantolo labashushisi njengokuthi bayithimba ke lapho ke bese bakutshela ukuthi bona ke lokushona kukamufi lapho ke basho khona ukuthi kade kuyinto behlelelwe phansi bese bazwana ke ngayo ngaphambi kokuthi umufi adutshulwe.
I'm listening, my lord. Sorry.
Thank you.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
However, Brigadier Gininda, we are unable to agree with you that this was a contractual killing.
Kepha ke bathi kuwena ke bona ke abavumelani nawe noma abahambisani nenkulumo yakho ukuthi wena ke uthize ukudubula lokho kade kudutshula komuntu oyedwa ngemuva ukuthi abantu ababili noma abantu abathathu kade behlanganele bese bazwana ngalokho.
Thank you.
That's a good please, man. I know counsel is just arguing maybe loudly, but the fact of the matter is murder. What the motive for the murder is irrelevant. So we submit, my lord, that that's a legal question. It's even if counsel is arguing lightly to put something that is incorrect as to the motive, because he's now busy with the motive for the murder. Murder is unlawful and intentional killing of a human being. What the motive, therefore, is, is irrelevant. So we submit, my lord, that it's incorrect to make that proposition to the witness that it was not taken into account that the witness suggested that this is a contractual killing. That's a legal question, my lord.
But, yeah, sorry, let me just ask the Brigadier. Does the Director of Public Prosecutions discuss strategy with you?
No, my lord.
As an arresting officer or an investigating officer?
Not in details, my lord, but they will indicate, for example, that let us approach the, probably especially after the decision has been made, to say, let's start it this way and then we'll move that way, but not in depth. You are more on the receiving end because you are not part of the decision making. But you will get an instance, like in this instance, where that says a certain strategy will be adopted when we deal with Ms. Kelly Khumalo. So, but not the details. But such came to my ears, my lord.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, I think we're at a stage when I was saying, actually laying out the basis of the decision of the public prosecutor in respect of the indictment that is before this court as it relates to these accused persons. Thank you.
Uyabonga ke ngoba kade akukhuluma ke mara nodaba lolu lo indictment ngesingisi suthi iphepha leli noma kuthiwa incwadi leyo ke lababhala kuyona ke phansi uma bethwesa ke abasola amacala ukukhuluma ke ngabasolwa noma bafowethu baqhamuka ngaphambi kwenkantolo lesukuyona njengamanje.
I do recall, my lord, yes.
Thank you.
Yebo ngisakhumbula.
Now, I was saying that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the message that basically is communicating on the strength of this indictment is to the effect that despite your fervent efforts to come up with some kind of evidence in the case docket and probably in your memorandum to the effect that this could have been a hit or contractual killing, in their mind, having gone through that evidence in the docket and the memorandum and whatever that they could have took into account in coming to this decision, they could not find any evidence that they can bring to court to proceed against this accused person on charges based on the fact that this was a contractual killing.
Athi-ke ngodaba lokuthi bona-ke ithimba lehhovisi labashushisi abakhulu-ke uma ngabe kade bebuka-ke memorandum lapho-ke futhi nedocket le kade umikise kubona-ke ngesikhathi beqeda ufunda-ke bese bathatha-ke isinqumo lapho-ke bese bona bacabanga noma mhlawumbe baphuma nesinqumo sokuthi-ke lokudutshula kukamufi noma lokushona kamufi ngesikhathi kade kusenza kudlame noma bugebengu lobo-ke noma isigameko kuwukuthi kade kuyinto kade ihleliwe phansi phakathi kwabantu ababili noma abantu ekuyiqembu.
My lord, I'm not sure. That's not what I was told. I'm not sure if I can say they told me that they didn't find any evidence. That's why I said that's not my terrain, and I think it's best that. But to say or an assertion that suggests that they were of the view that there was no evidence, I'm not so sure if I can agree.
Who said
with
that,
it.
according to Mr. Mnisi?
He says it's the DPP. It doesn't give me a specific name.
Thank you.
So you're denying it, in other words?
Because that's not what I was told, my lord. I don't
You were
have
never
that
told?
assertion. No, I was
Okay,
never told that
fine.
they don't see any evidence.
Athina abakaze bamtshela ukuthi abukho ukufakaza obukhona-ke lapho-ke futhi ade bebuza ukuthi ngabe ubani kosho lo nkulumo leko athi yena-ke bamtshelile igama lomuntu othizile noma igama lomuntu elikhethekile-ke mayelana nalolo daba lolo-ke.
Thank you, Brigadier. I'm referring this, I'm saying this in the context of what I explained to you earlier on about me saying the DPP said to you. I think we're still on the same line with regard to that.
Athi ukukhuluma ngamanye nodaba lolu bekakhulumile-ke ngalo esikhathini esindlule ngaphambi ukuthi sihambe esikhathini sokudla sasemini-ke la athi khona-ke bayakhuluma ngodaba labasebenzi balapha-ke ehhovisi le-DPP office shuthi abashushisi abakhulu.
Yes.
Wait. So what you are putting to this witness, it's your own imagination.
No,
No, listen to me.
I'm not imagining things.
No.
Okay, maybe the court can finalize
No,
what it
just
wants to
repeat that
say.
question. Because it's similar like the question you put to this witness. Because you are making an incantation that this witness was there when the Director of Public Prosecution and his staff were planning the modus operandi, like for instance saying that they don't find that there was a contractual killing. And this witness says he never discussed that. But you are putting it as a fact. You are putting it as a fact.
May I respond, madam?
Yes, respond.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
I've earlier on said, my lord, to the witness number one, that please, he should not understand me in a
No,
context.
I heard you, and that's incorrect to cross-examine a witness like that. That when you are talking about a particular individual in an office, it doesn't include him. No. If it includes him, you must tell him, on such and such a day, you were in the DPP's office, there was so and so and so and so, and you talked about this and this and this, and this was the decision.
Thank you, my lord.
Not the suppositions you're putting to him. That's not evidence.
Thank you, my lord.
Yes.
Brigadier, it's very simple. Now, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, I no longer say that they said to you this and they did not say to you that. But the Director of the Office of Public Gininda, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions then took a decision that did not align with your motivation and your investigation is contained in the docket that this was a contractual killing. And I am not thumb-sucking that. This is no imagination. This is what is contained in the indictment that this accused person were called upon to come and plead to.
Athi-ke manje-ke akasakutshela ukuthi ithimba labashushisi noma ihhovisi labashushisi abakhulu lakutshela ini noma bakaze bakutshele ini-ke lapho-ke kepha athi yena bona-ke abakaze bathi lokushona kukamufi kade kuyinto behlezi phansi ehleliwe noma kukuzwana phakathi kwethimba labantu ababili futhi ubheka phezulu-ke lapho-ke kepha athi-ke bona athi yena-ke lapho mayelana nodaba olubhaliwe ngaphansi kwenkulumo noma ngaphansi kwencwadi wathi indictment lokho ngesingisi la bathwesa khona-ke abasolwa amacala noma yebo la bathwesa khona-ke abasolwa amacala-ke kusinqumo sabo lesi abafika kusona malana nodaba olubhaliwe ngaphansi kohlelo lwe-indictment.
I disagree, my lord. Perhaps the right connotation should be not completely aligned, but to say it's not aligned, I disagree. Because in the memorandum, accused 1 up to 5 was presented, and the DPP arraigned them. And that's a different situation when it comes to Kelly Khumalo, and that is why I said that's not my terrain. But to say it's not aligned, it will simply mean even accused 1 up to 5, I made no presentation to the DPP. So that's not correct, my lord.
Athi yaklona-ke iqiniso lelo kepha ngekhe asho ukuthi akuhambisane-ke lokho malana nenkulumo kammeli wenu la ekhulumile athi lapho-ke isinqumo esaqhamuka phakathi kwehhovisi labashushisi abakhulu-ke ekuthizeni-ke bathwese abasolwa-ke amacala umsolo wokuqala umsolo wesibili wesithathu nesine wesihlanu-ke kungemuva kokuthi kade befundile ngaphakathi kwedocumente futhi idokhethi futhi memorandum ngoba khona lapho kade bebhaliwe futhi befakiwe kepha isimo sabo-ke siyehluka-ke nesimo sakaKelly Khumalo.
Yeah, for my edification, do you, Brigadier, do you write out section 105 notes concerning what the state is going to prepare or propose in this matter?
No, I don't, my lord.
Because in terms of section 105, the prosecutor has to align the allegations against the persons who have been indicted, and he will present factual analysis that the evidence of the state is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And in terms of the law, here's the thing. In terms of the law, he's got to do it because we are appearing in the High Court.
Manje-ke inkosi enkantolo kade ibuza-ke kufakazi ukuthi ngabe-ke lapho-ke uma ngabe wabhala yini-ke ama-notes-ke lapho eqhamuka ngaphansi komthetho-ke section 105 lapho-ke la kuvame ukuthi khona-ke esikhathini esiningi uma ngabe ihlangothi lezoshushiso-ke uma ngabe sebezokuhlala la icala ngaphambi kwenkantolo-ke kulaba vame ukubhala khona ukuthi nawo amacala ahambisanayo futhi amacala esithwesa-ke abasolwa-ke lapho-ke ngemuva kwalokho sebathi-ke nabufakazi esinabo-ke ngalana-ke futhi nabofakazi nabo abofakazi sobaletha nofakazi esinabo malana nabasolwa malana namacala la kusube esikhathini zakhona-ke bebathwesa wona.
Yeah, let me read it so that people know that I'm referring to what. Section 105A, prosecutor may address court and adduce evidence. The prosecutor may at any trial, before any evidence is adduced, address the court for the purpose of explaining the charge and indicating without comment to the court what evidence he intends adducing in support of the charge. 150 subsection 2A. The prosecutor may then examine the witness for the prosecution and adduce such evidence as may be admissible to prove that the accused committed the offense referred to in the charge sheet, or that he committed an offense of which he may be convicted on the charge. 152B. Where any document may be received in evidence before any court upon its mere production, the prosecutor may read out each such document in court unless the accused is in his possession of a copy of such document, or dispense with the reading thereof. And this is written by the prosecutor. And I take it, when I say the prosecutor, it's through the office of the DP, Director of Public Prosecutions. Do you take part in such an analysis?
No, I don't, my lord.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My lord, I am not saying that it would never be my submission that this witness, or my argument, that this witness, when the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutor takes a decision, he gets to be party there too. No. I am only putting to this witness as a method of cross-examination the gist of what the Director of Public Prosecution's decision is in relation to the trial that we are standing, in relation of the trial that we are busy with.
That's fine. Me, for my edification, I had to understand whether he does that or not. There could be prosecutors who do that, and there could be investigating officers who do that. But I'm telling you what the law says should happen before the case is commenced with. Because the law says the accused himself must be apprised of the allegations which are contained in the indictment against him. And there's a duty on the prosecution to summarize that type of evidence. And I am asking that because it has been put to you, for instance, about that evidence. There was evidence which purports to support a contract killing. Are you with me?
I'm with you, my lord.
Fine. So it's not against anybody. I just want to understand the modus operandi of how the prosecutor, the Director of Public Prosecution, that is, after signing this document called an indictment, what is encapsulated in it. Okay.
Thank you, Madam.
And then the lawyers disagreed on a point of legal procedure, which prompted the judge to intervene.
Now, Brigadier, probably I need to sum this up. I definitely need to sum this up. Now, in respect of the document, which is called an indictment, that, an indictment, it's a document that is used to bring this, not really bring, it's a document that introduces this accused to the court and the allegations that are against them. In other words, it is a document that gets presented to the court. The court is informed that these accused persons that we're bringing before you are not here for something else other than what we have mentioned in the indictment.
Athi-ke uma qedela ke inkulumo yakhe-ke nje ngokunciphile-ke ummeli usho ukuthi udaba lolu lwencwadi-ke babiza ukuthi indictment ngelimi lesingisi-ke indictment kula khona kubhala khona amagama abasolwa futhi namacala la bawathwesa bona-ke noma amacala ekusube ukuthi bathweswa wona abasolwa-ke lapho-ke bathi inkulumo nje leyo ejulile futhi nje enciphile nje ngokuncane-ke lapho-ke la kubhala mayelana namacala abathwesa bona-ke futhi nesizathu sokuthi kungani bephambi kwenkantolo kusube singaphakathi kwale indictment ukuthizeni amacala ababhekene nawo ngaphambi kusenkantolo ekuthizeni kusenkantolo iyazi ukuthi uma ngabe sesiletha abasola phambi kwayo-ke kumele yazi ukuthi labasola yini le noma yisathu sini-ke leso esenze ihlangothi lezoshushiso ekuthizeni balethe abasola ngaphambi kwenkantolo.
I'm listening, my lord.
Thank you.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
Now, in that document, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, having gone through the evidence that you had submitted to them for a decision, they could not find reasons, for whatever reasons that they could have heard, they could not find those reasons to align themselves with the investigation that says that this was a contractual killing.
Yes, my lord. We've already made an objection against this line of cross-examination, and just to not to disturb the flow of proceedings, we're not going to make repeated objections, but I just want to draw my colleagues' attention to section 144, subsection 3, which says the indictment must be accompanied by a summary of substantial fact, but that those summaries are not binding on the state. Evidence is presented to the court on the basis of which a decision is made. The summary of substantial fact is not binding on the state.
Yeah, but read it so that it's on record. You find that there are certain judges who don't know what you're talking about.
The heading is trial before Superior Court, section 144, charged in Superior Court to be laid in an indictment, subsection 1, where an Attorney General, that's now the Director of Public Prosecution, arraigns an accused for sentence or trial by a Superior Court. The charge shall be accompanied in a document called an indictment, as my colleague has pointed out, which shall be framed in the name of the Director of Public Prosecutions. 2, the indictment shall, in addition to the charge against the accused, include the name and, where known and where applicable, the address and description of the accused with regard to sex, nationality, and age. And this is now the section that we are referring to, the subsection 3A, where the Director of Public Prosecutions under section 75, 1213B or 122.2 Roman figure 1 arraigns an accused for a summary trial in a superior court. The indictment shall be accompanied by a summary of the substantial facts of the case that, in the opinion of the Director of Public Prosecutions, are necessary to inform the accused of the allegations against him, and that will not be prejudicial to the administration of justice or the security of the state, as well as the list of the names and addresses of the witnesses the Director of Public Prosecutions intends calling at the summary trial or on behalf of the state, provided that, Roman figure 1, this provision shall not be so construed that the state shall be bound by the contents of the summary. That is the point that we're trying to make.
Okay.
May I respond, madam?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. And my lord, I am not here to blow my own trumpet.
You must blow it.
No, I can't. That's not in my nature.
Is that so?
Yes. It is definitely not in my nature, my lord. But let me bring the following to the attention of the court. All that my colleague has been reading here must be understood contextually. When that section says that the Director of Public Prosecution or a prosecutor is not bound by the information in the summary of substantial fact, this is what is being referred to. Remember the indictment, my lords. Indictment is a substratum. In other words, it's a foundation of what these accused persons are here, or for the reason why accused persons are being brought to court. Now, to give a bit of a brief summary of why the accused are before court, then the legislature came out with that summary of substantial fact. In other words, the legislature saw it necessary to inform the court that, you know what, when you say that this person has stolen, the court must not be seated there and wondering whether this person has stolen cows, or this person has stolen a motor vehicle, or he has stolen ships or whatever. The court must already have a clue that, when the prosecutor says that the person that is appearing before me is charged with theft, I must know that I will have to listen to evidence that is dealing with the theft of a motor vehicle.
Does it follow, sir?
I'm still addressing the court, man.
Oh, I see.
Thank you. That is basically the intention of a summary of substantial fact. But the foundation, where is the foundation? The foundation is in the indictment itself. The indictment that is speaking about theft. That clause that says that a prosecutor is not bound by the summary of substantial fact, it simply refers to how can I put it? It simply refers to simple modalities as to when could the theft have happened, as to how the theft was committed, as to who was again involved in the theft and stuff like that. But you cannot change the substratum, the foundation, and say the indictment says this is theft, and then come and say when you're leading evidence and say no, but this was murder. You can't do that, because then you are changing the substratum. In other words, in an example of a house, my lord, a house has got a foundation, which is the indictment. Then the summary of the substantial facts are the simple modalities of the house. You can play around with where you want to go and fit the window, what should be the color of the house, whether you want the roofing there to be tiled roofing or corrugated iron or thatch roofing. But you definitely cannot change the substratum. That is what an indictment is, my lord. An indictment, it's a foundation, which is why in terms of section 35(1) of the Constitution.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about section 74. You quoted section?
No, that's 144, my lord, yes.
Hello, what section?
Section 1443.
1443.
Yes.
That's what he's quoting. Now you're describing some other.
No, my lord, that is exactly that, which is the reason
Okay,
why
I'll read it for myself, because this is not what 144 says. I'll read it for myself. Okay, you can quote it, whatever you want to quote.
This is the reason why, my lord.
I'll read it for myself. And
Yes.
I think I understand to read English.
Yes, my lord.
Because here it says we are not bound. We are not bound.
But that
It's
is
an absolute prohibition. We are not bound.
that is what I'm
Okay,
trying
fine,
to.
you heard me.
That is what I'm explaining, my lord.
No, fine.
That is what I'm explaining. That we've got the indictment, which is a foundation. We've got the summary of substantial fact that tells the court what the indictment is all about. But if the state in the indictment has included something like time, which is not right, probably it would say on and about the 7th of October 2019, and at about 10 o'clock in the evening, this theft happens. And the evidence says, no, this theft actually happened at about the 10th of October 2019 at around 4 in the afternoon. Those are just simple modalities. You cannot change the substratum. You cannot change that you are dealing with a theft of a motor vehicle. That is exactly what section 114 says when it says the state is not bound. But it does not simply mean that willy-nilly the state can change from saying this is a theft of a motor vehicle and say now this is murder. That is the issue that I am getting to.
We are addressing your colleague. He's got to respond to you.
Yes.
Fine.
Thank you, ma'am.
If you are ready to respond.
Yes. As a court, please, my lord.
I'm not done. I'm not done. Then the court says I'm addressing my colleague if he's ready. And then he can respond. The court does not even verify with me if I'm done or what.
I asked you.
No, but
I did. Didn't I ask?
no, I did not hear the question.
Yeah, you didn't hear the question. Fine. Go on.
And what was my answer, my lord? Whether I
The
was done
answer
or
is
not?
you are not done.
Yes.
Just,
But now I'm getting perplexed that
No, just
all of
go
a
on.
sudden the
Mr.
court
Mr.
instructs
Mnisi.
Mr. Baloyi to
Mr.
stand
Mnisi.
when I'm
Just
done, my
proceed.
lord. I'm done.
No, proceed with your case. Proceed with your case.
I'm done, my lord.
Oh, now you're done. Fine.
Yes.
He says it's done. Can you respond if you have any response?
Yes, my lord. I think with the greatest of respect, my learned friend is putting the cart before the horse. Facts are presented before the court and evidence is led, and at the end of all the evidence, a decision must then be made based on the facts that have been presented. Now, he wants to bind the witness to a view that he held at the time. That's not evidence. A decision must be made on the evidence that would have been presented before the court at the conclusion of the trial. It's an argument that he can present at the conclusion of the case, not at this point in time. Evidence is still unfolding, my lord. We submit with the greatest of respect that that is not for this witness to answer that, but it will be based on the evidence that is presented before this court.
Okay.
That is so, my lord. That is so. But remember the testimony of this witness. I cannot simply leave it hanging, my lord. Because it is because of this witness that these accused persons are here at court. So for all intents and purposes, I'll have to go through his evidence like a comb and step by step. I'm not so sure if there is anything in law that forbids me to do that. And if there is any, may I please my attention be drawn to the thing, my lord, or to that authority. Thank you. I'm not sure, but be that as it may.
Now I'll just leave you to watch the rest of the proceedings.
Brigadier, in terms of this decision, these accused persons have been arraigned for murder. Yes, these accused persons have been arraigned for murder, attempted murder, robbery with aggravating circumstances, and the contravention of the Firearms and Ammunition Act as it relates to possession of a firearm and ammunition. The summary of the substantial fact is very simple. It speaks about what happened at the moment at which those offenses were occasioned. There's no way in the summary of this indictment where a plot to kill or conspiracy to murder is mentioned. If you've got a comment, you can comment. No comment, it's up to you.
Kade akakhuluma ke khona ke njalo ke ummeli omeleke abanomzana phambi kokusenkantolo ke umnomzana oqala futhi nomnomzana wesithathu ke athi ke abanomzana noma ke abasolwa ke bagcina beboshwa ngembangela yokuthi noma beboshwa icala lokubulala futhi icala lokuzama ukubulala futhi ukubamba inkunzi nehlobile futhi uthini utholakala ngiphethe isibhamu futhi utholakala ngiphethe izinhlamvu manje ke akukho malana nodaba lwesummary le khona ke phambi kokusenkantolo ke mayana nodaba lokatulibhalile noma udaba noma inkulumo kade iqhamuka ngekwi-office labashushisi la kukhulunywa khona ke ngokuthi khona abasolwa noma abanomzana laba kubasolwa ke bahlela lokhu kubulala kwabo noma mhlambe bazwana beyithimba labantu ababili noma abantu abathathu bheka ngaphezulwini usho ukuthi wena ke uma ngabe ufisa ukuthi uphefumule kulo nkulumo leyo ke athi ungane waphendula noma wakhuluma malana nalo daba aqeda ukutshela lona.
As a court, please, my lord, I don't think counsel is correct. If one looks at the indictment, paragraph 12, it says the state will allege that the accused were acting in the furtherance of a common purpose.
A furtherance of a common purpose, my lord, in committing what offense? You don't read these things in isolation. There's no pertinent allegation in the indictment, and basically it's just an argument. There's no pertinent in the indictment that says that these accused persons will be standing trial here at the High Court because they conspired with Kelly Khumalo to kill the deceased in this matter. There's no such an allegation in this indictment.
kade hlangothi lezoshushiso lokhuluma lithi uma ngabe ubuka ke incwadi indictment la khona kubhalwe amacala abathwesa khona ke abasolwa ke athi lapho kubhaliwe ekuthizeni lapho paragraph 12 ukuthi lokho kulandelayo ke ukuthi abasolwa ke benza lokhu ngoba kade beyiqembu futhi bezweke manje uyasho khona ke njalo ummeli uthi uma ngabe buka ke indictment lena ke akukho la kubhaliwe khona ke ukuthi lenkulumo elandelayo ekuwukuthi ke abasolwa ke benza lokhu ngoba kade bezweneke no Kelly Khumalo ekuthizeni babulala.
That clause that says the accused acted in furtherance of a common purpose, it refers to the charges that are contained in the indictment, which exclude the fact that they conspired with Kelly Khumalo to kill the deceased. And that is the decision of the DPP.
Athi-ke lapho ke isinqumo esathathwa abashushisi abakhulu ehhovisi labashushisi abakhulu ekukuthi la kwe-indictment akukho noma la bathwesa khona kamacala akukho la kubhaliwe khona ukuthi abasolwa ke lapho ke benza lokhu ngoba kade bezwene no Kelly Khumalo ekuthizeni ababulali.
Now, do you have a comment?
Athi manje ke baba ngabe nayo yini into ongathanda ukuthi ukhulume ngayo kulolu daba aqeda ukutshela lona ke?
My lord, it's difficult. Like I've said, the document was crafted by the DPP, which is the NPA. I'm not sure how do I talk to that, my lord.
Thank you. Thank you.
Athi lapho ke kunzima ukuthi akhulume noma mhlambe yebo kunzima ukuthi akhulume mina nodaba lolu umele aqede ukumtshela lona ke ngoba athi le document leli ke labhalwa ke abantu basehhovisi le NPA shutha ehhovisi labeshushisi.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not done. Yeah,
Yes.
and that is the body that is vested with the powers to indict individuals, my lord.
Athi ke ngokukhuluma kanjalo ke ibona ke abantu labo ke abaselungelweni futhi abasemthethweni ekuthizeni bathwese abantu amacala ngendlela bona ababona ngayo.
That's my response, my lord.
Athi yona ke impendulo yakhe ke leyo anayo.
Thank you, Brigadier. I said in saying something to the court that I'm not here to beat my own drums. That's not in my nature. But, excuse me? Oh, okay. But Brigadier, all what I'm doing here, and this is not an indictment on you. You understand?
I understand, my lord.
Thank you.
Athi lokho kwenza ukuthi le indictment ayibhaliwe yena ke ufakazi baba umnumzana Brigadier Gininda athi yebo ngiyakuzwa.
It is not an indictment on the prosecution.
Futhi athi akuyona ke indictment yabashushisi.
I
No, not
understand.
indictment. It means iphutha or angisoni yena.
Athi no ngexolisa.
Eh.
Athi akasoli wena ke kepha usola ithimba labashushisi.
No, I'm not saying.
No, my apologies.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, this is neither an indictment on him nor the prosecution.
Athi lapho ke akasoli wena ke futhi akasoli ithimba labashushisi.
Thank you. It is just the facts that are contained in the documents, which documents have been used to bring these accused persons before court.
Kepha kathi kumayelana nalokho kubhaliwe noma uqokethiwe kulombhalo wencwadi noma kule ncwadi ke yona ke eyaphoqa noma eyaletha ke abasolwa ngaphambi kwenkantolo.
Are we together there?
Athi ngabe sihamba ndawonye lapho ke?
We are together, my lord.
Thank
but
you.
So just a follow up. But
Yes.
I think to be in a position as to whether there's an alignment with that suggestion, the NPA, my lord, are in a better position to actually deal with that part. So we are in alignment insofar as me hearing what Advocate Mnisi is saying, but we are not aligned as to whether what is putting to me is what the NPA will come and agree, because I can't speak on their behalf.
Thank
That's
you.
the difficulty I'm having.
Athi yebo thina ke sihamba ndawonye ke malana nalodaba lo kepha mina ke angikho sesimeni sokuthi ngakhulumela ke abantu behhovisi abashushisi ke uma ngaba khona ke umuntu kumele ukuthi eze kazokhuluma noma azokwenza isiqiniseko salokho ke ile thimba lehhovisi labashushisi.
Thank you, Brigadier. This is only my cross-examination to you. I know you're just an innocent person in the context of this cross-examination.
Athi ke ukuthi yena ukubuza ke imibuzo ke kepha ke ukhumule khona zathi wona ke umuntu omsulwa ke nohlamba umuntu engenacala ke kulokhu lemibuzo akubuza yona ke.
And therefore, Brigadier, this could be my final point on this matter. Therefore, any endeavor that seeks to lead evidence in terms of this document to demonstrate that this was a contractual matter or a hit would go against what is contained in this indictment. In other words, that evidence would be irrelevant.
Athi-ke lapho kuyakutshela ke mayelana nodaba ke olubhaliwe ngaphansi kwale indictment ukuthi uma ngaba khona ke inkulumo ekhulunywayo ekukuthi lokubulala kade kuwubulawa kade kuhleliwe ngesikhathi kade kusenzeka isigameko lesike athi lokho akwahambisani nale nkulumo ekhona ke ngaphakathi kohlelo le-indictment.
As you could please, Malord, we've already made an objection that murder, it remains murder. What the motive is irrelevant.
Athi-ke umshushisi lapho besesiqedile ngalo lophuzo lokuthi ukubulala ukuthi izathu zokubulala kade kuyini lapho-ke athi lokho-ke kumele ukuthi kukhulunywe ngaphakathi kwe-indictment.
Thank you. The defense does not dispute that there's no murder in the indictment. It simply admits that, but murder which occasion under what circumstances?
Athi-ke ummeli usuthi ithimba labashushisi aliphiki ukuthi ukubulala lokho kubhaliwe ngaphakathi lana kule indictment namhlanje le document akhuluma ngalo-ke kepha ngaphansi kwezathu zini-ke lapho-ke.
Thank you. Now finally, I'm putting it to you, Brigadier, that the evidence that you have learned in this court, trying to prove or demonstrate that this was a contractual killing or a hired assassination.
Athi kokugcina kuyakutshela ukuthi malana nofakazi bakho-ke babubhekade Gininda obulethile ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo-ke la uzama khona ukuqhamukisa noma ukuveza noma uvezele inkosi yenkantolo ukuthi lokubulala lokhu ukubulawa kade kuhleliwe futhi ukubulawa kade abantu bakhona becashiwe lapho-ke
Finds no applicability in what is contained in this indictment, and it is therefore irrelevant.
athi futhi akuhambi lokho okukhulumile kuhambisana nalokho kubhaliwe ngaphakathi kwe-indictment futhi akuvumelekile ukuthi inkaso yenkantolo ekuthathe njengofakazi noma mhlawumbe iyamkele leyo nkulumo leyo.
Thank you.
No, I disagree, my lord.
Athi cha angihambisani nale nkulumo eqeda ukungitshela yona-ke mmeli.
Motive, it's something else, but the fact of the matter, the offenses of a firearm, spent cartridges being found at the scenes are there, my lord.
Athi lapho-ke izizathu-ke eziphoqile ukuthi kwenzeka lo dlame lokhu-ke futhi nokuthi lokhu abakuthola mayelana nofakazi-ke othize wasetshenziswa isibhamu-ke lapho-ke futhi ade khona-ke alokhuzana amakhoba-ke eyinhlamvu kade akhona lapho.
The person was killed on that specific day, my lord.
Athi futhi khona-ke umuntu owabulawa ngalo lelo langa lelo.
As I said, my lord, the motive, it's something else.
Athi lapho-ke isizathu esaphoqa-ke labantu labo ukuthi benze lokho abakwenza esinye isizathu esahlukile.
And my understanding, my lord, is that it is in the interest of justice for me to come and inform this court as to what investigation did I embark on and what is it that I found. So I cannot conceal what I discovered, because that will not be in the interest of justice and that won't be truthful, my lord.
Athi futhi kungobulungiswa-ke bezomthetho okuthizeni yena-ke eze ngaphambi inkosi yenkantolo-ke afike atshele inkosi yenkantolo malana nodaba noma malana nezinto-ke awayithola ngesikhathi kade asesha-ke icala athi loboko kuwukuthi wenza ubulungiswa malana nodaba lwezomthetho noma malana nezomthetho-ke lapho-ke ekuthizeni angakhulumi-ke izinto athi lokho kungahambisani-ke nezomthetho.
That's what I can comment on, my lord.
Athi lokho angathanda ukuthi akhulume ngako.
Thank you, Brigadier. I think that was cut short. Having said that, all the information or the evidence that has been put before this court to demonstrate that this was a hired assassination is relevant, let me then proceed to the other leg. And I'm not saying that when I proceed to the other leg, I am justifying, therefore, that evidence then becomes relevant. It's still irrelevant
Athi-ke lapho uzobuya khuluma mala nokubulawa komuntu ukuthi kade kuhlelo kade beqashiwe abantu kade babulala lapho-ke nanoma athina lokho akusiyinkulumo eqondile futhi akusiyinkulumo ehambisana nodaba lwezomthetho futhi inkosi enkantolo kumele lokho ingakuthatheli emahlombe noma ikushaye ngondiva nanoma izoqhubeka abuze ngamalana nodaba lo-ke kepha akusho ukuthi lolo daba kumele ukuthi inkosi enkantolo iyamukele lolo daba lolo.
This is done with a view simply to complete the mosaic, the picture, yes, holistically, in view of the evidence that has been tendered here in court.
Athi lokho-ke ukudweba nje isithombe mayana nofakazi bonke-ke oselebulethiwe ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo.
Thank you. Now, on the 30th, by the way, what is the date on which accused number 1 was arrested?
Kweje umsoqala bambopha ngaliphi ilanga?
30 May 2020, my lord.
Athi ngelanga la nge-30 zakaMeyi ngomnyaka ka-2020.
Thank you. Now, this court has heard the circumstances under which he was arrested.
Athi-ke inkantolo sele izwile izathu lezi waboshwa ngaphansi kwazo.
There are point of agreement between what he says in terms of the arrest and what the state says in terms of his arrest. In other words, there are points where they agree with each other, like points of commonality.
Athi-ke lapho-ke khona-ke la ihlangothi labashushisi noma ihlangothi lezombuso-ke futhi ihlangothi labameli la bazwana khona-ke mayelana namaphuzu athize ekuboshweni kwakhe noma ngemuva kokuboshwa kwakhe.
I follow, my lord.
Thank you.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
He gets arrested at Tembisa by a team of investigating officers that include Sergeant Mukhula, who was primarily accompanied by some Metro Cop, primarily, I don't know what is the rank of the Metro Police, but that's Buthelezi.
Athi lapho-ke eboshweni kwakhe waboshwa-ke lapho-ke uSergeant Mukhula futhi nephoyisa lakamasipala-ke lapho iphoyisa babiza ukuthi i-Metropolis ngesingisi-ke lapho-ke athi akazi kahlehle isikhundla kusona-ke lo muntu loyo-ke kepha-ke isibongo sakhe uButhelezi.
I'm listening, my lord.
Thank you.
Athi yebo ngilalele.
Now, subsequent to his arrest at some stage, he got taken to the place where he was staying with his uncle. There were searches there. After that, he got taken to, that's now according to the police, to a hostel where they needed to go investigate for firearm. But ultimately, they end up at Fort Lawrence police station.
Athi-ke ngemuva kokuthi-ke aboshwe-ke lapho-ke wathathwa wasiwa kwindawo ethizeni la kade kahlala khona-ke nomalume wakhe-ke ngesikhathi kade befika lapho-ke bese amaphoyisa-ke athi ukusesha khona kancane lapho-ke bese ngemuva kwalokho bagcina sebase-Fort Lawrence kwindawo kade besesha khona-ke besesha malana nodaba lwesibhamu-ke athi bese ngemuva kwalokho bagcina bese esikhumulweni samaphoyisa sase-Fort Lawrence.
Yes, my lord, I'm following.
Athi yebo kusale emuva.
Thank you. Now, in the meantime, the state indicated that there was a communication that happened between accused number 1 and Sergeant Mukhula, which led Sergeant Mukhula to call you, and you gave directions that you should meet each other at Fort Lawrence police station. So,
bathi khona-ke ehlangothi zombuso lasho ukuthi khona la kade nixhumana khona-ke wena-ke mnumzana njengofakazi futhi noSergeant Mukhula-ke bese wena-ke watshela uSergeant Mukhula ukuthi kumele nihlangane esikhumulweni samaphoyisa sase-Fort Lawrence. Ngabe akusinjalo?
It is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo
Thank you.
kuyiqiniso lokho.
now when you received the call from Sergeant Mukhula, exactly where were you?
Bathi-ke ngesikhathi kade uthola-ke ucingo oluqhamuka kuSergeant Mukhula ngabe kade kuphi nendawo?
I don't recall, my lord, but definitely not in the North Rand where the accused was, but I can't remember at this stage.
athi esikhathini samanje akasakhumbuli kahlehle noma yebo akasakhumbuli kahlehle ngokugcwele ukuthi kade akuphi-ke kepha athi kade angekho ngaphansi kwesigodi esisodwa-ke nomsolwa isigodi sase-North Rand.
What?
North Rand, right?
Yes.
Athi kade angekho ngaphansi kwesigodi sase-North Rand.
So when I say North Rand, I'm referring to the area where accused one was arrested. That I was
okay.
definitely not in that area, as much as I cannot recall exactly where I was when I received the call.
Okay, thank you.
Athi nanoma-ke athi kade angekho se-North Rand usho ukuthi kade angekho ngaphansi kwendawo eyodwa nala umsolwa kade aboshelwe khona-ke nanoma angekhe abe nesiqiniseko esigcwele sokuthi kabe kade akuphi kahle kahle mayelana nendawo.
Yes, that is one of those aspects that I referred to, that there could be a common cause between accused and the state. That when he got arrested, you were not there. The first time that we met him was at the Fort Lawrence police station.
Athi yebo kula kade akutshela khona-ke mayelana nalamaphuzu ukuthi ihlangothi lethimba labameli futhi nethimba labashushisi kunalamaphuzu bazwana khona-ke kuwukuthi ngesikhathi kade aboshwa-ke kade ungekho lapho-ke kepha ngemuva ukuthi ushayele ucingo-ke kulakena nihlangana khona-ke.
Thank you.
I understand, my lord.
Athi yebo ngiyakuzwisisa.
Now, at Fort Lawrence police station, exactly, I do not know the precinct there or the area there. Exactly when you met him in relation to the Fort Lawrence police station, where were you? The police station that I know, they've got fences around them. You know, it's just not a walk-free area. So that's what I want to find, whether you met him in the streets around police station or you met him in the yard of the police station or what.
Athi-ke lapho isikhumulo samaphoyisa sase-Fort Lawrence athena-ke akasazi-ke kahle kepha kunezikhumulo zamaphoyisa lezi azaziyo-ke lezi abayibiyele-ke lapho khona-ke ngefensi. Manje umbuzo kuwukuthi ngabe noma ngebondana noma ngebonda, manje umbuzo kuwukuthi ngabe ngesikhathi bohlangana naye umsolwa oqala wahlangana naye kuphi-ke nendawo lapho e-Fort Lawrence, ngabe nahlangana emgaqweni noma nahlangana ngaphakathi emasangweni alapho-ke noma ngaphakathi kwesakhiwo sase-Fort Lawrence?
We met at the parking lot of the police station, my lord. So as you come into Fort Lawrence, just in front of the police station, there's a parking lot for SAPS. Then on the right-hand side, that is if you're approaching the police station, then it's a court, but the court is further up. So we met at the parking lot of the police station, just where the police station begins.
Athi sahlangana-ke lapho kumisa khona-ke imoto zamaphoyisa ngaphandle kwesakhiwo sebhilide lezesiphoyisa sase-Fort Lawrence. Athi kula sahlanganela khona-ke lapho-ke athi kepha kuma ukhuphuka nje kancane khona la inkantolo ekhona-ke uma lapho uqhamuka elokuzana kwisikhumulo samaphoyisa uhamba ngomgwaqo.
So would I then be correct, Brigadier, to say that it was within the precinct of Fort Lawrence police station?
Athi ngabe uzobaqinisile na ukuthi nina nahlanganela-ke lapho endaweni yesikhumulo samaphoyisa sase-Fort Lawrence?
Yes, you'll be correct, my lord.
Athi yebo uzoqinisile-ke lapho-ke.
Thank you, Brigadier. The information further goes, or not information, the testimony further goes that could have happened around just before that could have happened just before sunset, not so?
Athi-ke mayelana nolwazi olukhona noma mayelana nofakazi obukhona-ke kuwukuthi lokho kwenzeka ngaphambi ukuthi kushoneke ilanga, ngaba kusinjalo?
No, that's not accurate. I think it would have been between 1900 hours and 1930, because between those periods, my interview with him were done, and that was the time we were moving now to the provincial office. So when I met him, it was dark, my lord.
Oh, okay.
Athi cha akulona-ke iqiniso lelo athi yena-ke ucathi bahlangana maqeda ushaya ihora lesikhombisa-ke noma ngemuva kwemizuzu ewu-30 maqeda ugamanxa ihora lesikhombisa-ke lapho-ke kepha athi-ke lapho bekasele aqedile ukukhulumisana-ke nomsolwa-ke mayelana nodaba lwabo lenkulumo kade benayo-ke lapho-ke futhi athi ngemuva kwalokho kulawa athi bekumnyama-ke ngesikhathi baqeda ukwenza le nkulumo yabo kade bayenza-ke lapho-ke futhi athi kulawa mthatha khona-ke oswamnikisa kumahhovisi ase-provincial.
Thank you.
No, I didn't take him. That's when he was taken. He was not taken by me.
My apologies.
Yeah.
Athi cha isilungiso lapho ukuthi akusuye owamthatha wamnikisa kumahhovisi ase-provincial kepha bamthatha abanye ke bamnikisa kumahhovisi ase-provincial.
No, we still at Foslores.
Yes, I agree, Advocate Nisi.
Yes.
What I was just correcting the interpreter because
Okay.
he then said from First Loras, I took accused number 1 to the provincial office. So I was correcting him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we come in there. Yeah. Now, it was already dark when you meet him. I take it you then introduce yourself to him in the darkness. Not so?
Athi kade kumnyama ke futhi eyasho khona nje uzothatha ngalo ukuthi wena ke wazazisa kena ke futhi ngesikhathi kade uzazisa kena kade kumnyama lapho ke ngaba kusenjalo.
So, my lord, there are lights at that. That's the police station, like I said. It's just where the police station starts. And the accused was sitting inside the police vehicle, the red Golf, which the lights were turned on. But the sequence of events, I was first introduced to him by the members, and then subsequently, I also introduced myself to him.
Athi lapho ke cha akusenjalo ke ngoba ukhumbule khona njalo ukuthi labahlangana khona kulaqala khona ke isakhiwo sasesiphoyiseni sase-Foslores. Athi futhi kade khona ke izibane lapho ke kade zikhanyisile izibane lezo ke athi kade bahlezi ngaphakathi kwemoto i-Golf enombala ke obomvu lapho ke futhi naye kade ke inezibane kade zikhanyile kuyona ke lapho ke athi baqala bamazisa ke kumsola bese ngemuva kwalokho naye ke bese wazazisa ke kumsola.
So, this introduction by members of yourself to accuse number 1, who did it?
Bathi manje ke lokuthi wena ke babu Brigadier Gininda bakwazise ke kumsola usaziswa lapho ke ama member noma ilaba osebenza nabo ke esiphoyiseni ngabe ubani owayenza loyo nkulumo.
It could be Sergeant Mkhula or Mabena Malora. I can't recall specifically, but it's because those are the members that were close by in Buthelezi.
Athi kungabe ukuthi uMsajeni Mkhula noma uMobhena kepha kathi bona ke bezesiphoyisa kade beseduze ke lapho ke noButhelezi.
And then you, subsequent to that, introduce yourself to him. How did you introduce yourself to him?
Athi ke ngemuva kwalokho nagcina ke uzazisa ke kena ke manje umuzo ukuthi ngabe wena ke wathi ubani kena uma ngabe kade uzazisa noma wazazisa ngayiphi indlela kena.
By identifying myself, my lord, who I am, showing him my appointment card, and indicating to him that I'm the lead investigating officer on the matter of Senzo Mayiwa. So the formalities in terms of my name, my rank, being a police officer, and showing him my police appointment card.
Athi ke lapho kwazazisa kena ke ayichaza igama ukuthi ke ubani futhi nesikhundla asebenza ngaphansi kwaso esiphoyiseni bese ngemuva kwalokho kwamtshengisa ke lapho ke ikhadi lakhe lokusebenza lasesiphoyiseni ushuthi appointment card ngesingisi.
Now, Brigadier, when you
Futhi wamtshela
receive
ukuthi
this...
yena ke
Oh, I'm sorry.
my apologies bese wamtshela ukuthi yena ke futhi ohola ithimba labaseshi becala.
Now, Brigadier, is it so that when you received this information from Sergeant Mkhula, this matter has been punted or touted as one of, by the way, what do they call those serious crimes? As one of a great case, man, in the country, a high-profile case, yes. You already know that you are in the thick and thin of things of a high-profile case, not so.
Bathi ngesikhathi kade kusenzeka lokho ke usho ukuthi wena ngabe kade unalo yini ulwazi makade wazini ukuthi usebenza ngecala elikhulu futhi icala eliphakeme kumacala amaningi alana eNingizimu Afrika noma kumacala la usasike wasebenza kona.
I do know, my lord, that the coverage insofar as the death of the deceased was widely covered by the media. What I knew about the case, that it was a case that was difficult to solve when we brought in. So the difficulty was on solving the case. So my focus was the difficulty and the dilemma in solving the case rather than the high profileness. But I am aware that there was nationwide publicity in the media about the case.
athi yebo khona ke lokho ke uyazi malana nabo kepha kade bona babhekana icala elinzima ekuthizeni bagcine bakhona ukuthi balixazulule lapho ke ngoba icala leli beselivele sesakazwa ke emsakazweni futhi nakubo abomo lokozana ama TV futhi unondaba ade bekhuluma ke ngalo icala leli ngemuva ukuthi kushoneke lapho ke umufi.
And furthermore, that this case, or the perpetrators, or the suspects in the killing of this deceased have remained a mystery from 2014 up until then, when you met, when you had to meet accused number 1 at First Lawrence. Almost 6 years, it just remained a mystery. The perpetrators just remained a mystery, not so?
Athi asukuthi kade ke abasolwa noma abantu abadala ke lobugebengu noma abantu abadala ke lodlame lothizeni noma mhlambi lesigameko sokubulala ke umsola kade bengatholakala futhi kade bengaziwa ke isikhathi seminyaka ke ezithupha akusinjalo.
I suppose, my lord, if the question relates to the DPP issuing an indictment on the accused, yes, this was the first time. But prior to that, a number of people, even before my time, were looked at, others arrested and released. So it's not that the case was simply silent. Leads were followed, and then, you know, and people were excluded in terms of being suspect. Other arrests happened and then people were released. But insofar as, yes, I can agree that up to 2020, when the matter was presented to the North Gauteng DPP, that was the first time when an indictment from the DPP was then issued to arraign the accused before court.
Athi yebo ke khona ke kunjalo kepha ke kuzifinca isikhathi lesi wathola ke khona ke incwadi iqhamuka ke kubashukuvisi abashushisa abakhulu lana ke Pretoria ke DPP office lapho ke kade wakhipha ke indictment athi kula khona ke gcina koshwa abasolwa kepha athi khumbula khona njalo ukuthi ngaphambi kwalokho kade khona ke abantu ade beboshwa ke lapho futhi ade bephenya lapho ke kunabantu asele baboshwa bese futhi babadedela ngoba ade bebona ukuthi akusibo nababenze lesigameko.
Thank you, Brigadier. No, Brigadier. You're reading my mind very wrongly, if that is what you just did in respect of the answer that you gave here. I'm simply saying to you, would you agree with me that from the day on which this incident happened to the day on which you had to meet accused number 1 at First Lawrence station, police station, the perpetrators in this case remained a mystery? In other words, there's no person who had been arrested and successfully prosecuted, not so. I'm not talking about indictments or a DPP or what. There, First Lawrence police station.
Athi cha bangabe ufunda umcabango wakhe ngendlela ufuna ngendlela engaqondile ke yena athi ukulolidaba lalapha ke ngaphansi kwesikhumulo samaphoyisa sase First Lawrence athi kade sele kuyisikhathi seminyaka ke ezithupha ngemuva ukuthi kwenzeke isigameko lesi kuzifinca isikhathi lesi owahlanganela khona naso nomsola oqala ngesikhathi kade nihlanganela ngaphansi kwesikhumulo samaphoyisa salapha ke First Lawrence athi akusinjalo.
No, that's not 100% correct, my lord. Perhaps successful prosecution, yes, the answer is correct. But to say no one was arrested, that is incorrect, because few days after the deceased was killed, Mr. Mbata was arrested and he was charged and he appeared in Boksburg. I think it was back then in 2014. So that was the first person that was arrested, and subsequently, I think due to the investigation, then the charges were withdrawn.
Athi yebo thize ngahlangana naye khona ke kunjalo kepha ke ukhumbule khona ukuthi bakhona ke abanye abantu ababoshwa ke lapho ke futhi wazolwenza ke isibonelo sokuthi umnumzana ke umbatha ke nakhe waboshwa ngemuva kwelanga leli lesigameko bese ngemuva kokuthi aboshwe bese waqhamuka ngaphambi kwenkantolo yaseBoksburg kepha ugcina bemdedela ke lapho ke ngembangela yophenya kwecala makusesha kwecala.
I'm sorry. Are you done, Brigadier?
Yes, I'm done, my lord.
Does the fact that Mbata was arrested and charges against him withdrawn not take the case back to where he started in 2014, that there was no suspect?
Athi ke ngemuva ukuthi ke umnumzana ke umbatha waboshwa bese ngemuva uthi ke aboshwe inkantolo yamdedela noma amaphoyisa amdedela lokho akubuyiseli icala akuhlehliseli icala emuva kuze kufinceke ngomnyaka ka2014 ngelanga kade kusenzeka ngaso isigameko.
No, it does, my lord, but my question, because I was answering the question that there were no arrest and successful conviction. That's why I said conviction, we're on the same page. Arrest, I disagree, because I'm answering it on that context, based on the question that has been given to me, that there was an arrest, and that is the one of Mr. Mbata.
Athi cha ikizeni ke akekho umuntu waboshwa bese washushiswa bese watholakala enecala athi cha lokho ke uyakuphika kepha ukhumbule njalo ukuthi ukhona ke umuntu uthizeni owaboshwa ke lapho ke umnomzana uMbatha bese ngemuva uthi aboshwe khona njalo bese bamdedela ke engekagwetshwa.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, when you met accused number 1 at police station, at First Lawrence police station, introduce yourself to him. Now, you already were aware of what you spoke about in the course of this cross-examination that you referred to as good practice, which include fairness and objectivity, not so?
Bathi ngesikhathi behlangana nomsola futhi uzazisa ke na ke ngesikhathi buwazi manje nodaba le good practice la nesebenza khona ke ngendlela eqondile futhi ngendlela ekhethekile akusenjalo.
I was aware, my lord. I just don't remember if I've put it in that context, because I understand the good practice. I've put it in the context when the late Mr. Mngomezulu asked me about the confession, and I said, and that's where the good practice started back then, that it is a good practice or a suggestion that you should follow this practice to get someone independent from the investigation to take the confession. So that's where things flow with this term of good practice. So I was aware, when I met the accuser, I was aware that one has to act within the perimeters of the law, and obviously then you embark on good practice as and when the need arises. But I didn't go there with that mind, my lord, because all I was told is that this person seems to be making some admission about this matter. So I wanted to interview this person or talk to this person myself, and then I would have then made up my mind as to the way forward. But I had no idea what he would say to me, my lord, before I got there.
Athi ke cha akusinjalo ngoba leligama leli abalibiza ukuthi good practice ngamandlela eqondile ngamandlela elungile okusebenza ke lapho ke athi igama eqhamuka la ngesikhathi beka phambi kwenkosi yenkantolo ke ebuzwa ke imibuzo kathi umnomzana kuMngomezulu athi igama lelo kulala qhamuka khona ke ukuthi good practice athi ligama lelo lisebenzisa ngembangela mhlawumbe ngesizathu sokuthi ke lapho ke yena ke wathi ngeke abeselungelo kade ngekho selungelweni lokuthatha the confession kamsoke kepha kwakwamele ukuthi athole umuntu oyimelo usebenzelayo ekuthizini kube uyena ozobuya umuntu lo athathe confession eqhamuka kumsolo ngoba bekazwile ukuthi umsolo kunodaba angathanda ukuthi alimike kubona kubo noma abatshele.
Thank you, Brigadier. When I think I started off this cross-examination, I think it was on Monday, I requested you to define what do you mean by good practice, and then you said it involved the principle of fairness and objectivity. Do you still remember that?
Athi yebo yabonga kepha khumbula khona njalo ngomsombuluko ngesikhathi beqala kubuza ke imibuzo ngesikhathi athi becela ukuthi umchazele kabanzi ngokugcwele manje negama leli lithi good practice kula wona ukukhuluma khona ke ukuthi ukhuluma ngamagama esingisi objectives and fairness ukuthi amagama alungile futhi nendlela yokusebenza ekhethekile noma elungile.
That is correct, my lord. But when you deal with an accused person, what is supreme above that are the constitutional right of the person that is before you in terms of Section 35. So that supersedes the good practice, and that is why I focus on that. The rest, because the good practice kicked in as a result of what accused one was telling me, and now in documenting what he was telling me, good practice then kicked in. But prior to that, the primary focus is to ensure that the accused or the suspect that is before you is fully aware of his constitutional right in terms of Section 35. Thereafter, you then find out from the said person what he elects to do. So it flows like that. And when the answer says we can talk without an attorney, the results of that discussion then will guide you as to what you need to do. And obviously, if the confession must kick in, the good practice method then comes in. But that is much later. The primary focus are the constitutional rights of the person that is before you that you intend to question, my lord. Sorry, my apologies.
Athi-ke ufakazi lapho-ke igama leli ewabiza ukuthi good practice laqhamuka ngoba kade yena-ke efisa ukwazi ukuthi umsolwa ngabe ufisa ukukhuluma ini noma mhlawumbe ungathanda ukuthi ambikile ini lakena noma amtshele ini-ke athi lokho aqhamuka emuva ukuthi yena-ke ekhuluma ngodaba lwezomthetho olwela ngaphansi kwa-section 35 noma umthetho ozokusebenza ka-section 35 labe atshela khona-ke umsolwa mayelana nodaba noma mayelana namalungelo akhe anawo-ke ngaphansi kwezomthetho wala eNingizimu Afrika-ke lapho-ke labe kathi mhlawumbe umsolwa noma mhlawumbe isiboshwa ngomsolwa singakhona ukuthi sikhulume naye ngaphandle kommeli ukuthi ummeli abe khona-ke noma sikhulume naye ummeli-ke akhona-ke lapho-ke athi igama lokulala qhamuka khona-ke lapho-ke bese ngaphambi ukuthi benze lokho-ke kulaqala amtshele mayelana nodaba lwakhe amazise khona-ke mayelana namalungelo akhe ezomthetho maqeda kwenza lolu daba lolo-ke bese uma ngabe umsolwa ukhetha ukuthi akhulume ummeli akhona-ke uyomtshela-ke noma uma ngabe afisa ukuthi akhulume kummeli angekho ubuye amtshele-ke lapho-ke bese baqhubeka basebenza-ke.
My lord, I'm tired. I can't even hear myself speak. I think I'm doing a great disservice to Mr. Sibiya if I were to continue in the situation in which I am. I'm going to request for an early adjournment.